start us off with a motion to approve the February 2nd regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll follow that with a motion to approve the February 5th public budget hearing minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Make a motion to approve the February 9th regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Finally, I'll make a motion to approve the February 9th non-public meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain. I wasn't there.
Are you abstaining on the regular meeting minutes too?
No, just the non-public.
Thank you.
All right, a couple announcements. The select board will meet on the following dates at 5 p.m. Monday, March 9th and Monday, March 23rd. A couple important dates to remember. They're actually wrong on the screen, but Tuesday, March 10th, town elections will be held at Plymouth Elementary School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Wednesday, March 11th, town meeting will be located also at Plymouth Elementary School at 7 p.m. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the select board's agenda should notify the town hall before noon the Thursday before the scheduled meeting, and all our meetings are held here in town hall and are available by Zoom, and the Zoom information can be found on the town's website, plymouthnh.gov. Let's kick off with the town manager report.
Sure. Shorter report this week, so I know we have a busy agenda this tonight. Highland Street project update after our public hearing on February 9th. On the Highland Street project, Steve St. Pierre, Robert Cormier, Ann, and I have met with Jordan Pike, HEB, and New Hampshire Department of Transportation on February 18th with regards to further research on eminent domain and the next steps in pursuit of the property located at 150 Highland Street. Our next steps will be as follows: a complete review of the updated right-of-way manual, which will be done by HEB, a rescope of the project in preparation of a public hearing that will be upcoming. That's done by HEB. And the public hearing will either take place late summer or early fall with regards to the roundabout that was discussed at the public hearing. There will be a review and identify of historic mitigation, which will be done by HEB. And then HEB and New Hampshire Department of Transportation in collaboration will be working on what the additional financial considerations may be from the public hearing and the result of that back on February 9th. Plymouth State University Police Services, Chief Buffington and I have been meeting with Plymouth State University Administration and Plymouth State University ex-police chief, Stephen Lefebvre, with regards to taking over police services on campus. We have an agreement and will continue to meet on work out the details of operations and logistics. There will be a public hearing tonight in order to accept funds from the university for the police services. Highway Department, winter snow removal policy. If with winter upon us and hopefully coming to the very end of it, if you have questions about the town roads, streets, and sidewalk snow removal, please refer to the town website at the following link: plymouthnh.gov, departments, highway department, and then there's a snow removal policy included at that point. Additional items, my February town manager's message is available on the website. And again, the strategic priorities of the select board are on the website. But as always, in the last few meetings we've seen, we're happy to see the attendance that we have and the public participation at these meetings. It really provides us some insight and some additional information that we feel are very valuable from the residents in the town. And one last thing, I did have a call from Kathy Kelsey of the Historical Society today. They were going to be here tonight, but that's been postponed to a later date. but she wanted to seek permission of the 250th Declaration of Independence celebration that will take place July 8th, 2026 at 6 PM in front of Town Hall. Just making sure it was all set with the select board, that date, they could confirm that date and time. And that concludes my report.
Any concerns or objections about that?
No.
No, I think that sounds great. Thanks, Scott. Any other questions for Scott?
So just the Highland Street project, will we be incurring additional costs from HEB for, rescoping the project, historic mitigation?
It could be,
Okay.
but we don't know that yet. That's why I say we need to look at what the additional financial considerations are going to be. And
But
we'll-
for them to actually do the work right now, to look at that?
No, that's included in what the scope of project we had was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just, looping back to the chairman's comments, I wanted to call out the candidates night that we had last Thursday was very well run. I wanted to just appreciation to Mary Beth Bentwood for moderating that, running a very good event, and for anybody who attended, thank you for attending. And also it is available on the Pemmy Baker TV for anybody who missed it. I think it was a really good conversation with the public. Okay, we're a little early for our first public hearing, so let's hit something else that's on this agenda list.
The acceptance of the $4,292 from Norwood Energy.
Yeah, let's hit that one.
So the first item under new and old business, Leanne Monahan,
I think we're gonna do the Norwood Energy.
Yeah, let's do the,
gonna be here today.
oh, she's not gonna be here tonight. Okay, so I'll cross that one off, but let's discuss the acceptance of funds.
So we received another payment from Knoll Energy in the amount of $4,292. And as we've done in the past, we asked the board to accept those funds and as unanticipated. And because it's under $10,000, we do not have to have a public hearing. We'll take those funds and turn them around and put them right against the actual loan again.
Perfect.
So just a vote of the board would be appreciated there.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the amount of $42.92 from Knollwood Energy and authorize the amount to be paid to CDFA for the payment on the solar array.
I'll second.
Any discussion about that? All good? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Right.
While we're on the topic, should we do the letter from regarding SB 538?
A lot more to that.
There's more to that? Yeah,
Okay. So we should hold on that one.
that's fine.
Do you have anything in the signature file, Ann?
I have a lot.
All right, let's hit the signature
do.
file.
I have the charitable and institutional exemption list. This is from your assessors. They're recommending that the select board review and sign the current listing for the 2025 year. This list actually shows you the map and lot, property location, assessed value, and type of exemption. She has reviewed all of them and is requesting that the board review and sign. I do not need a vote of the board, just your signatures on there. Ooh. So the next thing I have is an application for current use assessment. This is for map 233, lot 41, Daniel Webster Highway. This is a 138.296 acre lot. 107.97 is currently in current use, and this request is for the additional 30.326 acres to be put in. And it is, after review, the assessor is recommending that the board approve this A10 form.
Do we know if that's, if that parcel is under the higher reduction that allows for recreation, public recreation? just out of curiosity? There's kind of two levels. You can do one for general protection and one, you actually get a higher rebate on current use if you,
It is requesting the additional 20% rec adjustment.
okay, thank you.
The next item I have is a in-house abatement, the amount of $979. Again, after a data conversion error was found, the assessment was manually corrected. So we need to abate to get the cost of this bill off of $979. The next item is,
That was an inadvertent mute.
okay. The selectmen are the assessors are recommending that the selectmen approve a property tax abatement in the amount of $3,352 for the 2025 year for the property associated with Midstate. And it would be the first issue tax bill and the second issue tax bill of 2025. The next item is an in-house abatement, 2025 data conversion error. Abatement is to zero out the tax collector records. This is for a master property card. There was a value put on it, and once the value was spread out over the other cards that are associated with that individual property, this one should not have received a tax bill. Next item I have is the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources Division of Forest and Lands. We have
I corrected it on the previous one. Thank you.
we have a renewal of a contract for a 1/4 ton trailer that we use for forestry within the fire department. We're just renewing our annual contract with them for this piece of equipment, saying that we still own it, we're taking care of it. If it becomes unoperable, they want it back. Just sign there. And the next item I have is the 2027 reappointment of forest wardens, forest fire wardens. And these are all deputy wardens. And Kevin has gone through as our forest warden and reviewed everything, made sure it's all fine. He's signed off on it, and there's just places for the board to sign as well. That's all I have.
Of public interest, one of the things we just signed was the official list of tax exempt properties. Total assessed value of tax exempt properties in the town of Plymouth, according to that, $64,915,032.
Does that include PSU on there, Scott?
Excuse me?
Does not include PSU, does not include town's properties or state properties.
Not, right, not PSU, not town, probably not the Armory.
No,
These are,
those are all businesses that were listed on there.
yeah,
Well,
business,
not, yeah, nonprofit
nonprofits, yeah.
entities, yeah. All right, well, it's 5:15. Let's start our first of our public hearings this evening. Give me 1 second. Put this screen. So the select board is holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 3195B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds from Plymouth State University in the amount of $147,246.88 to be utilized as an offset to the police department budget for personnel, policing, uniforms, body tasers, cameras, and cubicle replacements. These funds represent 6 months of expense of the 30-month contract. The remaining contract amounts will be placed into the fiscal years ending 6/30/27 and 6/30/28 as offsetting revenue to the departmental budget, estimated at $250,490.76 annually. So, Scott, do you want to do just a brief intro of this before we take
Sure.
any potential public comments?
Sure. So, back in November, we were advised that Plymouth State University would be disbanding their police department, and it would be the responsibility of the town of Plymouth to take over policing, which it is, because it is in the town of Plymouth. And so we started negotiating with the university with regards to what type of financial offset they could provide to the community with regards to the town of Plymouth providing those police services. So in the agreement that we were able to work through, there's several different pieces to that. But in year one, they will reimburse the town for 2 full-time officers and 1 part-time officer. And that includes all wages, benefits, all the labor costs that are associated with that personnel. Additionally, in year one, they will provide $9,500 in funding for uniforms for those 2.5 officers. They also agree to make a $30,000 payment to the town to cover the tasers and the body cameras associated with those officers. They also have agreed to spend $6,500 in lieu of moving cubicles from a building on campus and redesigning and configuring the patrol room at Plymouth PD to accommodate those 2.5 officers. They also have agreed to release all of their firearms, body cameras, tasers to Plymouth Police Department at no cost. Also, we will be taking possession of 2 of the Plymouth State University police vehicles at no cost. The cost associated with those 2 vehicles will be fuel and maintenance. But one is a leased vehicle. The lease is being turned over to the town of Plymouth. It's pretty much a brand-new vehicle, maybe a year old. And the other one is an older vehicle that the university owned, but we'll be signing that over to the town as well. So there's a lot of different pieces that come into this agreement with regards to the mandatory Clery reporting for the university that reports any crimes that occur on campus. We will take that over. The one thing that is additional to this agreement is they will continue to pay their dispatch fees as they always have, and they will continue to pay for police prosecution that are outside of this agreement. Keep in mind, it's a 2-year agreement, and the reason for the $147,246 is this all occurred after we put the 25-26 budget together. So this wasn't included in the 25-26 budget for an expenditure. So once the board accepts these funds, we'll invoice the university for the first payment that will cover the 25-26 expenses. So we currently are patrolling the university, able to put together, not we, Chief Buffington and Deputy Diamond have been able to put together a schedule that provides adequate coverage to answer criminal complaints on campus. Keep in mind that university still has their safety services, which provides services to university students for a lockout of vehicles, parking complaints, incidental type non-criminal activity that they will still handle and take care of. So kind of at the 10,000-foot level, that's what we're asking, is these funds would be for the 25-26 budget. And then in the 26-27 budget is the other amount of the $250,000 that's discussed in the public hearing information.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions from the board before I open it up to public comment?
I do have one. One of the things that has been expressed of concern in the past is that what happens in 2 years and PSU decides not to come to the table to negotiate for, the services that we do have to render. Have we reached out to our local general court representatives to see if we can get this codified in some way, that if a police university isn't providing their own police services, they have to reimburse the town?
They have no obligation to reimburse the town for any type of services.
But because right now it's not codified in state law, but, could we work with our local representatives to possibly get something like that? So that way we're not on the hook in the future if they don't.
I mean, I guess we could, Jason, it would be entering into a pilot agreement. And just like any other nonprofit state organization, they're exempt from any type of property taxes or entering into a pilot agreement under RSA 72.
Your suggestion, though, is to reach out to either our Senate or House of Rep regional
Yeah.
to say, hey,
And
could we
actually
get something,
Put legislation in place.
put
that would
legislation in
require that.
place that protects us in the future?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea.
I don't imagine this is going to happen to Durham or Keene in the future, but if it does,
I was going to say, I mean, I wouldn't be so surprised, right?
this is something that, we're experiencing now, and if we can get something codified in RSA saying if a university is not providing their own, emergency services, they need to reimburse the town, I think that, could provide us some protection.
I think
don't
Bill
disagree with
Bolton,
that. I'm sorry.
Bill Bolton, I believe, has been working on nonprofits at the state level.
Yeah.
And I would imagine this would cover it, unless you're
I
speaking.
don't think it does,
Just
though.
universities.
No, I'm speaking just in regards to university and public service,
Right.
public policing or things like that, because.
Because I think the bill that Bill has been working on explicitly excludes
This is true.
Yeah.
You're right.
education,
Actually,
right?
I
So it's
forgot about that.
his
You're
is
right.
really about kind of the organizations we were just talking about a minute
Churches.
ago.
We're entering in a new phase of this, of we have this university in town. If they decide not to come to the table in 2 years, we're just SOL, and then
Or
it's
if
up to.
they change presidents
Yeah.
and the new president comes in with a different opinion of how it should be. Yeah,
And so if we reach out to, Representative Bolton or Representative Prentice or anybody to say, like, can we get in the RSA that, any university that's not providing their own police services must reimburse the town for emergency services rendered? Or enter into agreement to reimburse the town for emergency services rendered. That provides us more protection in the future.
We certainly can inquire.
Yeah.
I think it's less favorable that it will ever happen, but we certainly can inquire.
It's, nothing ventured, nothing gained in that, in my opinion, on that route.
And I think that's what our representatives are here for.
Yeah.
That probably starts with drafting a formal letter to our reps
Okay.
along these lines. I think it's always nice when someone will help to get that work
I can work on that.
rolling. Do you want to
Yep.
take point on that, Jason?
Absolutely.
I would
Board
presume
agree with
that,
the-
oh, sorry.
I can't assign him work without a sort of a general.
I'm all for assigning Jason work.
Okay, good.
I'm volunteering to take on that. I'll take on that, so.
All right, thank you.
I would presume that in the future, when we renegotiate the campus life safety services agreement, that this would be incorporated into that. We have had a good track history of negotiating with the administration on the life safety services agreement, and had we known about this, I suspect they would have been willing to incorporate this in to the recently negotiated agreement, but we can, I agree that there's nothing in statute that requires them to do that, but I think, there has been history of them being willing to do this in the past, so.
All right.
I do appreciate that on their behalf.
Anything else from the board before I take public comment?
Nope.
All right, public comment on this particular public hearing? Please approach the mic and state your name and such.
Hi, Board. I'm Patrice Scott, and I live on Russell Street. It's for about over 30 years now, so I've seen a lot of activity, a lot of police activity. I'll never forget my daughter's 6-year-old birthday when we first moved into Plymouth, and the street was lined with state troopers and every police officer for miles around because of some kind of event going on. So I'm very aware of the need for policing and the cooperation between PSU and what developed from a security service to our police. And I was very concerned when I first heard about this, and I apologize, I've had to be out of town a lot, but I've been watching the meetings, and I just wanted to make sure, and Scott was kind enough to provide me with the MOU so I could just see a draft, and I feel he's done a very good job in mapping this all out. But my biggest concern was at the last meeting, I heard somebody refer to this as an amendment to the LSSA. And for people who haven't been around Plymouth for that long, I mean, we've had 3 very hard-won battles, hard-lost battles. We always lost when it came to legislation. So I would say, 3 strikes were out. Town of Plymouth is too small to really gain any momentum in the House for anybody else to care what happens to us. And I've always called us the ugly stepchild of the university system, because other people were, other host communities were given millions of dollars and all kinds of services, and Plymouth was kind of thrown some pocket change once in a while. Here we go, here, give the little town something to make them go away. But I thought the LSSA, of course, wasn't what we were happy with, because we had demonstrated through legislation, our researchers and our 2 representatives, that how much it actually costs PSU, cost the town to have them here, to host them every year. And it was upwards of $650,000, and that was 20 years ago. So any agreement that, and I know the life safety service agreement started out at $350 or $400, and we eventually got them to come up to $700, but it's been downhill ever since. And the complaints of, hey, it's tough, it's tough on everybody. But what people don't realize is, from the taxpayer's point of view, every time they get a break, we have to pay more. So it's becoming, from what I've heard, the people that I know and have been talking and seeing on social media, that it's becoming unbearable for people to live in Plymouth. So, of course, when I heard that, oh my gosh, PSU's not even going to pay for their own policing now, what are we going to do? And what's that going to do with, campus security? I mean, all these incidents that have happened recently with shootings on campus, what happens if something awful happens in our town? And who's going to come running? The one state trooper that's on call at Troop F. But, I guess they've downsized their police force, and I wondered how many officers we're going to be increasing our force by, and that, this agreement, I guess, is for 2 years. So I basically was concerned that, oh, hey, we just cut the life safety service agreement in half, and I want to make sure our firemen services and dispatch still going to be paid for, or is that if they got out of the life safety service by cutting their police department, and who is this force that's left, this campus safety department, we're calling them?
Services.
So are they like what they used to be, campus security, go around, let kids in and out?
Without any law enforcement powers.
Right, exactly, Scott. So what I wanted to emphasize that in your paragraphs, what is it? H and I was just a little concerned that it looks like PSU, these campus security people, can decide when they want the Plymouth police there and not. And I say, fine, let our policemen take care of the criminal matters and policing, and that'll be it. That's what they do. That's their job, right? Well, if we're going to have somebody telling us, oh, well, we're not going to call them in this, or,
That's
I-
not the case.
Okay, well, I
It's
hope not.
absolutely
I
not.
hope there's no restraints on our police to do
Our
their
police
job.
are- I mean, as you know, Patrice, our police are the chief law enforcement officers in the town of Plymouth
Right.
and have that authority.
Right.
So we will make the determinations on what we respond to and what we do not respond to.
Good, okay, but what about the campus security, whatever, safety department, whatever you're calling them? Are they retaining their authority from Plymouth that we've granted in the
They have
past?
no authority from the town of
Okay,
Plymouth.
good. So it's like clean slate, they don't have policing authority, and it's our police officers that are called in the event of anything criminal that goes on or
Absolutely.
security issues. Okay,
I think your earlier description was right, like keys, lock out, lock in, like that stuff that we don't want to have to take on that responsibility.
right, we don't want our officers, I'm sure they have plenty of other things to do. So, well, that's good. So I'm glad about that. And then the only other thing my eye caught was right before the signatures, paragraph 3. It says, in the event that either party has concerns or disagreements regarding the application of this agreement, the parties, through their representatives or successors, will discuss and implement resolutions before seeking enforcement through the courts. I'm wondering if we meant to have attempt to. You will attempt. No?
No, I mean, this went through our town attorney, it went through the university attorney, and this is a language that was approved.
Okay, so you're saying, what I'm reading here is that if anything happens, we're not gonna go to the court?
No, it's gonna be, if you read through, you see that the jurisdiction is in the state of New Hampshire, and that if it does go to court, it will go through, the state, in the state of New Hampshire Supreme Court.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're not
Yep.
limiting ourselves to.
Oh, no.
Whatever we can do, because I can tell you in 2 years, we've been through this before, so,
I mean, I can say.
we haven't had
Patrice,
great luck.
We have a great working relationship with them now. They were very good in negotiating this, and it is separate from the LSSA.
Okay, that's
The
good.
LSSA is $275,000, and this is $292,000 for the first year, plus the additional expenses as I listed, which they've absolutely agreed to pay and have signed off on executing the document.
Right. Okay, well, I congratulate you, Scott, for being able to work that out, and I'm just hopeful in 2 years that we will still, I mean, I'm getting nervous, they're shedding the church, the museum, they're shedding this, they're shedding that, they're shedding their police department, so we need to be compensated fairly.
And I think the other thing you mentioned, which was a very good point, is yes, we still will get reimbursed for additional details for police and fire and EMS.
Okay,
So those are built into, when we discuss this with the university, and it is in the LSA that we get paid for special details also in this here, is that we get paid at $60 an hour for special details, and that includes all labor costs that are associated with that. But each independent department at the university, for example, Community Impact Department, has money for those details that are associated, that will go to the Plymouth Police Department or other police agencies that they bring in through mutual aid to cover those details. But for EMS details, fire watches, and police details, such as Spring Fling or
Right.
Pirate Party,
right.
or any one of those events, we will bill them additional dollars for those events that require an additional officer at a detail rate.
Okay,
And they've been very good at agreeing to that, and
Okay.
they haven't nickel and dimed us on those
Right.
bills. They've been very, very good to work with on.
You figure last year, they paid us just over $110,000 in special details.
okay, well, that's good to know, so thank you, I appreciate it, I appreciate your efforts, and I pray that nothing really bad happens continuing on that.
Thank you. We do as well. Any other comments, questions about the policing agreement? All right, I will close the public hearing at 5:34 PM for
Sorry,
the.
Zach, can I say something? I was trying to get attention, but.
Yes,
without
you
muting.
can, Molly. Thank you.
I just think this is really wonderful, and I'm really glad that you are all working with PSU as they transition with a very difficult funding landscape. And I just feel the need to be a kind of counter narrative where There are also people who live in this town that I think really appreciate that we have Plymouth State, even though there are challenges that having university in our town brings up. I think it also helps make our town very vibrant. So I just felt the need to say that. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Molly. All right, with that, at 5:35, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Do we have anything to vote on this to accept the funds, right?
Yep. So I'll make a motion to accept the unanticipated funds from Plymouth State University in the amount of $147,246.88 to be utilized as an offset for police department budget, personnel, personal policing, body uniforms, body tasers, and cameras, and cubicle replacements.
I'll second.
Any further discussion from the board on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so on to our next public hearing of the evening. It is 5:36. I will open a public hearing for discussions related to an article that will be placed on the 2026 town warrant, in which the select board will request authority to issue, it says 1.6 million in bonds, but we've adjusted that down to 900,000 after public discussion and the identification of an alternate but preferred location. So 900,000 in bonds and or notes for the purchase of property within the town of Plymouth. This property will be used as the future site of a public safety complex. So, Scott, Chief,
Sure.
you wanna?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay.
After the public budget hearings that we had and discussion of the purchase of the property out on Tenny Mountain Highway for $1.6 million, we heard the message from the residents that that wasn't a feasible investment for the town of Plymouth. So we scurried over the next 48 hours and we contacted the owners of 291 and 295 Main Street, which was the old McDonald's site on Route 3 North, across from Fairgrounds Road. So they initially were asking, excuse me, $1.2 million for the property. We were able to negotiate with them over a 48-hour period, and they came down to $850,000 for the property. Working through Caldwell bankers out of Lincoln and negotiating with them. You'll see that it is for $900,000. The extra $100,000 are for incidental cost with regards to securing a bond and all the associated expenses that go along with that. This property was looked at a few years ago, but the owners of the property at that time did not want to negotiate on their price, and at the time they were asking $1.4 million for the property, so we let it go. But at that time, we did have a contractor come in, review the property, make sure the soil was of good quality. We also had an engineering firm come in and look at the property to see if it would be feasible to put a public safety facility on that property, and the answer was yes. So we have done some research on that property in the past when we were first considering that as a site for a public safety facility. But I think the moral of the story is the citizens spoke, we listened, we found an alternative site. We were able to negotiate a fair and reasonable price for that site, and this is what we are asking the townspeople to proceed with through a warrant article at town meeting.
Quick correction, you said $100,000 for additional costs. It was $50,000.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Zach.
Just wanted to make
Yes,
sure that that wasn't
$50,000.
misheard for everybody else. And Chief or Deputy Chief, either of you want to speak to this at all before we take more public comments?
Good evening. Yeah, so this property, as Scott said, was our first initial choice. It's unique because it allows us direct access to Tenny Mountain Highway, which is our growing zone for our community. It also gives us direct access right into downtown. So for emergency response, From our current location, it puts us about 2 minutes out further to the downtown hub. It actually gets us 3 minutes closer to Tenny Mountain Highway. And then, honestly, Fairgrounds Road, it was another area that we designated as a potential risk because there's a lot of expansion residential in that area. So multiple housing complexes. So it really fits that need too. It's for all locations, it was a preferred choice, and it finally worked out in the community's favor and our favor operationally. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me.
The last comment I will make is over the past 2 years, we've been indicating that this is a direction we're heading. So we had money in both of the previous budgets to do the research on this. So we've done extensive research. The current facilities we have, both at the fire station and the police station, we've both outgrown those facilities, as well as those facilities have major problems that would be extraordinarily expensive to fix. So in both of those cases, we have that documentation, we have that additional information about, why now, why are we talking about this? All the conversations we've had have come back to the idea of a singular public safety complex building, because that's more efficient for us as a town. It'll be less expensive to operate a single building than 2 buildings. So this isn't out of the blue, right? We've spent 2 years doing the research, doing the validation, coming to this point where, okay, the next phase is we need to secure a location, and then in coming years, we'll come back with plans for what that building looks like, what that costs. So the thing that we're bringing to taxpayers this year is that next step, right? We've brought them the research. We brought everyone the research phases. Those have been approved. Now it's let's secure the location. Hopefully we will get that approved. And then in future years, we will approve the actual construction of the building, which does give the town, opportunities to pump the brakes along the way, right? We would like this to move because we have issues with these current facilities, but we're doing this in a methodical, phased approach to put each decision in front of the taxpayers incrementally as we go down this road. All right, public comment. I see Molly walked in. She was literally just on Zoom. Slightly confusing to me.
Sorry. Good evening, John Christ. I just want to say I'm really thrilled that the town is moving forward with this. I do think it's really important and a fantastic investment to have an expanded facility and be able to meet our needs, as well as it seems more and more communities' needs going forward, which I'll want to return to in a moment. I also just want to implore everyone to make sure that we really do future-proof this. There are a whole bunch of towns out there who have created new facilities that have not been large enough, and they've grown out of them almost as soon as they built them. And so it might be a little bit more of an expenditure up front to build large, but it'll save money in the long term if we're not outgrowing it in a decade or less. And that is definitely something, there's lots of examples out there of towns that have done this. But to that end, as we start to expand ourselves, can we speak at all to the extent that as we expand our service to other communities, to what extent can we expect our agreements with other communities to also help defray the costs? I assume some of that is built in, but I'm wondering what that looks like.
Some of those costs are built in currently, John, with regards to capital expenses on ambulances and maintenance and things of that nature. But as we move down, yeah, those additional costs are going to have to be built in as well, based on the percentage of use that that community has with our ambulance service.
And the communities we're working with are probably willing to take on that extra load to build out the capacity on our side to help them?
That's our understanding right now. They've been in agreement with what we have presented to them currently and knowing what we're moving forward with.
Perfect. Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, one of the things we've certainly learned over the recent years and the continued expansion of our regionalized ambulance service is that it's extraordinarily expensive to run an ambulance in a small community. And so some of the initial sticker shock that these communities had as we increased our prices to really make it not a burden on the Plymouth taxpayers for that expansion and to really get our fair share, is that those communities realized that, yeah, the price of an ambulance has gone from $250,000 6 years ago to $500,000 now. The cost of staffing their own ambulance service with 24-hour coverage and these sorts of things has become untenable in those communities. So despite the high costs that we have to charge out to those communities, it's still far more fiscally responsible for them to use our service and for us to be able to defray some of the costs of that equipment by sharing that with our surrounding communities. So kudos to Chief and to Scott for this continued conversation with the surrounding communities, but we do believe that as we're trying to figure out how to get revenue sources and fund this community in a way that embraces our hub identity without burdening the Plymouth taxpayers, that the ambulance has shown a really great model here that we hope to further expand in other areas in the future. But certainly we don't have the space in our facilities to do that today.
I think something that is important for the citizens and taxpayers to realize is that for a community that wants to start up their own ambulance service, the basic cost is $1.2 million. If you're going to staff it 24/7 and cover your community effectively, it's about $1.2 million. Right now, we charge $1,373 per call. When we go to Ashland, when we go to Holderness, that's what they're invoiced. They're invoiced on a quarterly basis. Next year, keeping in mind that we have a SAFER grant that is a warrant article this year. We have the firefighters union agreement. That cost goes up to $1,600 to defray the cost from the Plymouth taxpayers and spread that out evenly over the base of the communities that we respond to at a percentage basis. So if those articles are passed at town meeting, they'll be reflected in the cost of providing services to communities. So if we say, for example, the town of Holderness, we respond 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for medical response, we charge them, basically their average cost is about $280,000 a year. It's much cheaper than $1.2 million, right? Even at the cost that we're billing them. So it's a really good deal that our communities are getting, is that we're not here to make money, but we're here to defray the cost of the Plymouth residents and the taxpayers. This year, we'll see about a revenue of about $850,000 on ambulance expenses, which offsets the ambulance budget that we appropriate every year at town meeting.
I also want to say to John's point regarding seeing other facilities kind of building it and it's already overgrown. I know Chief Pierce and other members of the team looking at that have actually gone out and looked at several buildings in the area and certainly have seen a lot of, we won't do that. I believe you even saw some that have outgrown.
All of them, every single one we looked at, that was a consistent bit of feedback that they built too small. That by the time they moved into the building, they were afraid that they'd actually needed more space, and we don't want to get into that same trap.
Hi, Katie Wood Hedberg. I live on Emerson Street, and I'm here with actually two hats on. First, as a Plymouth resident, I just want to second what Mr. Chris said, that I'm so happy to see this going forward. This has been on and off the ballot for many years, and it's something we really need. And again, we need to not be penny wise and pound foolish. We need to build what we need. My other hat is I am the county commissioner for Plymouth and the surrounding areas, and the county commissioners engaged a consultant to look at the EMS services for Grafton County, and a lot of the things that are said were also things that I have spoken many times with Chief Pierce about. But if you're interested in the fragile nature of our EMS and where we look to go, and Plymouth is not named in the study, but is certainly a model for a lot of what's being said. It can be found on the Grafton County website. It's right on the front. It's a green circle and it says EMS. And I think that that's something that many people should take a look at. And our surrounding towns have been very fortunate that we've had Chief Pierce and the support of the Select Board and Mr. Whedon, because we're providing fabulous service, and hopefully we're getting paid adequately. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Frank McLean with Habitat for Humanity here in town. A couple of things. First, just a little FYI, all 3 towns to the west are all voting on new safety buildings and building their own safety buildings, and Rumney's actually voting to start an EMS service. Just, I know that that's been some increased revenue to the town in the last year since the Warner Wentworth service went out. That's just a little bit of thinking for everybody. Okay, thinking about the revenue stream. When I'm actually here to talk, great work. Thanks everybody for the commitment to, the consideration of the safety building. That's the butter. Here's the lobster tail. Habitat has 60 acres that we would love to discuss donating a lot for this safety building to be built on. You guys got a lot of work involved at this point. I know that in the past we have expressed that to all of the different departments, and this is even including some of the no longer in the service of the town chiefs. So just an additional thing that we have that 60 acres and just not something that was ever actually like pushed to our desk or anything for consideration, even though we offered it a couple of times. Oh, I'm sorry, on Tenny Mountain by the Restore. Thank you.
Kevin, do you want to address the Rumney situation and what you're working on with regards to Rumney, and it will not reduce our revenue stream in Plymouth?
Yeah, so what you're referring to with the Rumney is not voting this year. Just to bring everyone up to speed, since the collapse of Warren Wentworth ambulance, Plymouth was emergently requested to take over that region for 911, and we did, knowing that long term it's not a good solution for those residents out there, and honestly our workload here in Plymouth. So we've stepped up and do that, but we have been working. It's been a whole system-wide effort. As Katie referred to, as the EMS system is extremely fragile in Grafton County. We're dealing with really unforeseen circumstances to a level that we haven't dealt with before. We have a very frail demographic in the whole region in itself, and it's taxing the EMS system and the medical system as a whole. With that being said, I've been fortunate enough to build relationships with several towns to our west, and we're working on really a solution that's never been done in the state of New Hampshire. It's regionalization of EMS. It's several communities coming together to own and incorporate under a separate RSA to build their own EMS system. With that is, we can't do it alone, right? Plymouth can't do it and they can't do it. So we're working in a partnership to build a stable EMS system, basically piggybacking off each other. So what Rumney's doing right now is actually a small bit of a greater picture. We've actually got all 5 communities involved to the west, doing just basically a warrant article it's non-binding, it's no money involved, it's just gauging the temperature of each community. Would you be willing to enter into a regionalization system? And if all the communities come back favorable, then we go on to step 2. And that involves some very painful talks with New Hampshire DRA and other government organizations. With that, we got to build up this side of it too, because we have a greater need with Plymouth, Ashland, Holderness. And it truly is, it's exhausting. It's several different avenues that we're all pursuing, just to simply stabilize a region. And it's been a lot of conversations with the Grafton County folks and 10 communities, so that's a 10,000 view. It's really hard to explain without sitting down and looking at it on paper and showing you. And if you guys are interested, I'm welcome to meet with you. I'm right at the fire station. I can show you how intricate it really is and how fragile it really is too. I don't know if that helped or made it worse for you guys.
My takeaway from that, Chief, is it's a coordinated effort that's happening in those towns to our west.
I don't know. You got the feedback.
All right, any other public comments on the land purchase for a public safety complex?
I'm wondering if you would move forward with this vote with knowing that Habitat is interested in talking with you about donating a property along Tenny Mountain Highway.
There's a concern with regards to response time from that piece of property out on Tenny Mountain Highway to the rest of the town. It's really not a suitable location for a public safety facility.
The Restore location, like that property
That's
right
correct.
behind the Restore is
Correct.
too far compared to the property that you're discussing?
Correct.
But this vote does not commit us to a purchase either. This is simply a raising of funds that could be, if another piece of property comes up next week that's a better location. This is not a commitment to purchase a specific piece of property. It's to allocate funding if appropriate land becomes available. It doesn't preclude us from investigating other locations. But there's at least one parcel in town that the town could purchase for this $900,000 that would be suitable.
Correct. Thank you. Oh, did you speak your name? Can I get your name for the minutes?
Me?
Yes, please.
Matheson.
Susan Matheson. Thanks, Susan. All right. Any other public comments on the land purchase? Checking online before I close. Oh, got one moving. Nope.
Going the other way.
Molly has me gun shy now. Okay, 5:57, I'm closing the public hearing on the bond. So the next we will hear about this will be at the vote for town meeting.
Correct.
And that is a ballot vote.
Yes, on the
But
floor at town.
On the
meeting.
floor at town meeting, ballot vote, and am I recall, is that a 3/5? That is a 3/5 majority required to pass, so just so everybody has all the information about what we're talking about. Okay, I'm gonna move on to our third and final public hearing of the evening. Town of Plymouth, Plymouth State in my head, is holding a public hearing pursuant to RSA 32:5-C to receive public comment on a petitioned warrant article implementing a local tax cap for the upcoming 2026 town meeting. Not the tax cap for the town meeting, but the article for the town meeting. The warrant article presented reads as follows. To see if the town shall adopt the provisions of RSA 32:5B and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than 3%. This is a warrant article that comes from the community, not from the board, so I'm going to go straight to public comments. And I don't know if any of the petitioners are here. If they are, it's always nice if some or one of the petitioners wants to speak to.
Could we talk about some of the adoption procedures? So my understanding is this also requires a 3/5 majority to approve?
Yes, so this is another one that will be, is this one ballot voted as well, or?
Ballot vote that would be
Yeah.
open for an hour.
Ballot vote, just like the bond, open for an hour, 3/5 majority required. And so, we'll start voting at the beginning of town meeting on this after open discussion, and then it'll go to ballot vote, and then sit for an hour, and then they'll count the votes at
I think
8:15, 8:20, probably something like that.
I think one thing that's important is that realizing that this tax cap or this budget cap is only on the town budget.
Yes.
This doesn't apply to the school budget. It doesn't apply to the county tax. It doesn't apply to
State
the
education.
state school budget. It only applies to the town portion of the budget, not the school. May I speak, Zach?
Yeah, I was going to let the petitioner speak if they were here first, but I'm not seeing anybody jump to the podium, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. So there's a lot of research that's done on putting budget caps in place. And I've put a document together which really talks about the critical detrimental cap of a budget in a town like Plymouth, in the size of the town, and the budget restraints of this town. And a 3% municipal budget cap is often criticized as being too rigid to handle the actual vital cost of running a town. While designed to limit tax increases, such caps frequently result in unintended negative consequences, including reduced services, degraded infrastructure, and long-term financial instability. And here's why a 3% budget cap would be very detrimental to this town. Fixed costs often rise faster than 3%. Municipal expenses such as health insurance for employees, utility bills, fuel maintenance, emergency service costs often rise faster than 3% annually. A cap below the actual cost of inflation functions as an automatic mandatory budget cut every year. Erosion of essential services. To stay within a 3% limit while core costs rise, towns are forced to make cuts to public services like police, fire, road maintenance, libraries, and other municipal services. This leads to a decline in the quality of life, potentially making the community less desirable for residents and businesses. Infrastructure maintenance deficits. Budget caps often result in deferred maintenance on roads, buildings, infrastructure, HVAC systems in buildings, and all public buildings in that matter. While this looks like a savings now, it results in much higher emergency repair costs in the future. Unfunded mandates. We've seen what the state has done over the past 2 or 3 years. Towns are often required to comply with new state or federal regulations, environmental permits or safety standards, for example, that do not come with additional funding, making a fixed cap even more difficult to maintain. Inability to meet growing demand. If a town has experienced population growth or population growth through developers, demand for services increase. But a 3% cap does not account for these increased volumes, stretching existing services thinner and thinner as time goes on. In summary, experts will argue that a 3% cap is an arbitrary sledgehammer, that it does not eliminate waste, but instead systematically erodes the foundations that allows a town to operate and thrive. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, public comment. Any other public comment? Yes, please.
William Bond here. So I had a couple of questions upon the actual procedural effects of this on the budget proposal, just so everybody can understand what this means, what can be done when we want to spend more money than a 3% raise as a town, just so that rather than necessarily talking in like, oh, this is going to prevent us from doing anything or whatever, like we know what this really means, right? My understanding from the reading of it is that we're limiting the increase in the proposed budget that comes from the select board, but we're not strictly preventing the town from spending or increasing the amount of money we spend by more than 3% if the voters so vote on a warrant article, per se. Is that correct?
It's partially correct as I understand it. Here's the nuance, I think, there. The select board puts forth the budget and all the select board recommended warrant articles, right? Well, all the ones that aren't petitioned. I believe this would not allow us to put forth a collection of petitioned warrant articles that would increase. I mean, a collection of non-petitioned warrant articles that would exceed the 3%. So if, let's say, hey, we want to, we want to do this extra special project, whatever it is, and we even have anticipated but not guaranteed revenue on it, maybe, like even then, we would not be able to even put that forward because we would be legislatively restricted to the 3%. Now, the town could floor motion an increase. So someone could say, hey, I've been following this and I understand that there's this, restriction in this area and I want a floor motion increase that exceeds the that causes it to exceed the 3%. That would be allowed. If we wanted to grant the ability to go over the 3% from the select board's perspective, it would have to be delayed a full year because it would have to go back onto the warrant to remove the restriction, and then the following year a new budget could be proposed that exceeded the 3%. So I believe those are our only avenues to exceed 3% if this was approved.
Or there could be a petitioned warrant article with, 25 signatures in order to petition a warrant to spend money that exceeds 3% of last year's budget. Is that correct?
Which would go around the budget committee and budgeting process. But yes, you can always submit a petitioned warrant article to do kind of anything.
No. So I'm not saying petition to remove the cap, but I'm saying let's say that as a community we're like, hey, we really need to replace the fire station, but we can't propose a budget that's a 3% increase, so we can't take out a loan for a purchase of the property. Would the voters in Plymouth be able to organize and say, yes, this is really something we agree with, and as long as there's 25 people who say we agree with this, we want to petition a warrant article to authorize the select board to do this? Would that be?
Yes.
Yes, and it would show up on the form that we submit is the MS
32 and 34.
It's the MS 232, and on that MS 232, we would have to, as a select board, say we do not recommend the petitioned warrant article.
Correct. Because you're limited at
Right,
that
because
3%.
we're limited. So
Right.
we would explicitly have to not recommend that petitioned warrant article, but it could be petitioned.
Okay.
If
So that is a way. So it's not that our hands are tied and we can't spend the money. It's that it has to be coming not from the select board, but from the community itself in order to go beyond there. Is that?
Yes, and I would assume that no one who is on the budget committee could sign that petition warrant article.
On the budget committee, they're advisory only.
It says governing body or budget committee in the RSA. So I would
say
think
no.
that no one on the budget committee could sign the petition warrant article.
But
And probably from an ethics perspective would need to stay a fair arm's length distance away from it to avoid any funny business.
But the bar would be getting 25 people in town to say this is something that we want on the warrant. Is that again? I'm trying to just make sure
Yes,
that
yes,
everybody watching and listening
Yes, you are
understands
correct.
kind of
with,
what we're doing.
With all of the restrictions of 25 people in town, those 25 people cannot be involved in the budgeting process and involved in the budgeting in any way. And the warrant article would have to appear on the warrant as not recommended by the select board or budget committee.
Okay. Can I interject something too?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, obviously you're trying to figure out ways to work with this if we're to go to, but I mean, just looking at what we have with our petition warrant articles, there was issues with getting this petition warrant article to appear correctly on the vote. we have Article 7, Article 8, because the warrant article that was, presented was incorrect. And so I would be afraid in the future of trying to, do our budget process through petition warrant articles because they might not meet the statutory requirements of the petitioned. And so that could cause delay. Like, we had to meet separately to help rectify the situation with a inoperable petition warrant article for Article 7. And so I would be afraid that, we wanted to get, something petitioned, or sorry, the citizens want to get something petitioned, but it is inoperable and there's no way we can fix it because it was submitted at the deadline.
Yeah.
And so, we have procedures in place with a budget committee and the select board and things like that in order to go through this months-long process in order to facilitate a budget recommendation.
Yeah, I think assuming that that would happen often, or that we would try to operate in that way is highly unlikely. I think it's much more likely that would come from a floor motion at town meeting. That seems like a much less onerous, burdensome, right? All you have to do to get a floor motion is, somebody in the room to second your motion, and then it can be discussed and voted on. So,
And that can make the budget go up or down on the floor town meeting. You don't have to go through all the petitions.
as is always the case.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, so does the petition actually have to state the cost, the funding, how we're gonna, so it's not just, hey, we wanna do this. Hey, we wanna do this, it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z, here's how it's gonna hit, the tax rate. All that information would need to be provided as well.
Section 3 of RSA 32.5B addresses overrides of the cap by the population, and you can override it by a ballot vote with a 3/5 majority.
Okay.
So,
It's the same as adopting it, either,
town.
or
Right.
dropping it.
so if it's adopted by a 3/5 majority, it can be overridden by a 3/5 majority.
For
But-
that year or the following year?
So it would be, if the tax cap is put in place in any subsequent year, there could be an immediate, funding issue. If there was a special project to build a public safety complex, it could still be approved if it was over that amount by a 3/5 majority ballot vote.
We can't even,
But we couldn't put forth a
Recommend
budget that recommended those additional expenditures, because we're not allowed to put it forward.
Right.
I'm gonna make a point,
It's a
though.
one-year delay.
It's confusing.
That, for all of these things, we do go out of our way to put them on the warrant before actually doing anything, so everybody gets a chance to vote on them. So this bond issue for the property, it's voted on. When we do the public safety complex at some point in the future, it's gonna be voted on. So we're not arbitrarily increasing the budget. We're saying, hey, this is something we think is important to do. Here it is to you guys, say yes or no. Not just adding it to the bottom line someplace and hiding it.
Yeah. No, but I think.
I would say, there are other budgets, even in this town, that present a single line item and say, vote this up or vote this down.
Or vote this up or vote this, or it'll go up a little bit anyway.
Exactly. And so to Ted's point, our budget process has been very careful. It's admittedly a little tedious on town meeting night, where we're going to go through 20 some odd articles. But part of that is to give the voters that level of choice and level of control on the floor at the meeting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think two other meta points I'd like to make are, one, about the operating budget and what you talked about, Scott. I think the presentation of that says, like, oh, here's all the restrictions on the town, we might not be able to do all these things, whatnot. But then when it comes to the individual, it's saying, for people on fixed incomes, it's saying, I'm sorry that your taxes went up a whole bunch and you only got a 2% increase from your retirement account, but we're going to take, a 20% increase on here. And so what we're doing is we're taking that rock and that hard place, and we're saying, should we shift that to the town to figure out the rock and the hard place, or should we shift the rock and the hard place onto the people? And I think the reason that we're seeing the petition and the reason that all these questions are coming up is people are saying, we feel like we're getting squished between the rock and the hard place, and should every year we feel like we're getting squished between the rock and the hard place, or should we be moving that more towards this? Because I mean, you know, we've all been here, I feel like a couple of years through the cycle of like, oh, let's go to the state, figure it out. Oh, can we raise, you know, money with the university? Oh, we can't. And it's like we're whittling down our list of like things that the fulcrum points, and the fulcrum point is either the taxpayers or the town budget, right? And so I think that's a reaction. This is a reaction of that, feeling like, okay, there's a lot of people who aren't really thrilled with continuing to be that fulcrum point of kind of all these meta elements here. And so I think that's why we're seeing it, and that's why it's being brought up.
They should be attending town meeting, school meetings. If you're a registered voter, you have a voice.
Yeah.
Every single
That's
one
what
of you have a
democracy
voice.
is.
Yeah. No.
It's
I mean,
not-
I'm giving you, you said it was public comment. My public comment is, I think what we're saying, why this is coming up is, there's a bunch of people who are like, hey, I don't want this to keep happening, and they feel like this is the strongest way, right? Like, we can come in and we can debate individual line items and say, oh, what can we propose to take out here or readjust here? Or we can say, oh, or we can just give you a cap, and then you guys got to figure out how to make it not go up more than this amount and work within those constraints, right? And so, yeah,
Agreed.
I think that's just kind of the meta point I'm trying to take from the community here. So.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, William. I think that this is exactly that. It's the community saying, yes, you have put these decisions in front of us year after year after year, and we don't know how to make these decisions, but we know they have to be made, so we're going to force you to make them. If it passes, right? That's how I read this. I don't read this as a attack on anyone on this board or budget committee. Frankly, if that was the case, there would have been some positions not running unopposed, right? We had every position in. So I don't feel any level of defensiveness about this warrant article from a budget committee or a board or town administrative perspective. I think it's exactly what you described. The community feeling the stress of the situation and saying, you've asked us to make the decisions and we don't know how, so we're going to force you to make them before you even put them in front of us. And I don't necessarily agree with that perspective, but I understand. I think that's the source of it.
Right. I think it's important to know that this would not take effect until the 27-28 budget. Right. So people know.
Yeah, right. This budget has already
this.
been proposed. This would be next year's budget would have these constraints in place. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I offer a case where, you know, that might exemplify one of the things you brought up about growth? So there's a warrant article that the planning board has been proposing for a Tenny Mountain overlay district that would allow some flexibility in development of resources around Tenny Mountain ski area, anywhere west of 3A. It's possible that there could be enough development there to double the number of homes in the town, the residences. A tax cap like this would have no flexibility for the budget going up to accommodate the additional services of even having, you know, 100% growth on assessed value and property. We'd be stuck with that 3% cap, regardless of how much additional taxable value there is in town. So it is very rigid.
Yeah, because it's not about taxes per taxpayer.
No,
it's
about the budget.
About the total
and
amount of money that we're
money
gonna
to be raised,
regardless of what's happening to the incomes.
or regardless of what the assessed value of properties in town becomes over time.
Right, that too.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, but also we've already identified that if there were a bunch, the bar is 25 people saying, you know, do I want? I mean, I think it's interesting because the people that I've been speaking to, and this is probably getting even further away from the direct issue. It's like they feel like they're abstracted away from the process, which clearly you can just show up and be part of the process.
We'll give you the podium as long as you want it. William.
I will be here all night. No. But yeah, I wonder, previously, did we, like, I even run into the, like, I'm not sure when the town meeting is. I'm like, I dig through things and it's not super obvious. Like I don't know, did we used to mail out when the town meeting was to residents or anything like that? Or like post like You know, we have
I
like
mean,
the
it's been the-
voting kind of like
By
boards. that we
statute,
put up.
it's the second Tuesday in March, and that's the same kind of across the state. So no, I don't think we've ever mailed anything.
Not that I'm aware of.
We do obviously have our email newsletter, so we've got
Yeah,
that. We have already started posting in the Facebook group as well, which has reasonable, engagement.
Posted in our agenda.
That too.
Yeah, but
Every 2 weeks I say the dates, but
in the
you're right.
newsletter,
Not
right?
everybody watches, and
Right.
hopefully some amount of word of mouth, right? Like tell 3 friends to set their Tuesday night aside,
Right,
or
yeah,
Wednesday
yeah.
night aside.
Right, great, thank you.
Thanks, William.
Thank you.
Hi, Maggie Mumford from Plymouth, Highland Street, not that it matters, but it seems to me, my perspective is that there are already protections in place in terms of how, in what the select board recommend for parts of the budget, as in the biggest expenses are going to be capital improvements, and there's capital improvement planning, where you spread out the costs, where you think about what one department might be able to improve by and what another one, and how is that going to affect the overall budget. So with the nuance of you're already doing that, it seems to me that there is protection there. Is that a reasonable viewpoint?
It's certainly guidelines, but yeah.
Well, my perspective, having a capital improvement plan is an attempt for us to make sure that we're forecasting what we think is going to happen in the future to avoid spikes and dips in the tax rate.
Yes. That is
Hopefully,
really.
it's
the-
a,
Right.
that's,
And
it's
this
a no
is-
surprises plan is sort of
Right.
the theory there.
And that's another way to go at, yikes, don't increase it too much. But it gives flexibility, but you're putting the big cost items in a long-range plan.
I think it's important to note our tax rate has gone down in the past 5 years. As well as to Scott's point, the school is roughly 60% of the overall budget. I am not they have a whole other host of issues that we don't have to deal with, but the school budget is larger than the town's budget.
I'm sorry, so I'll clarify. What I'm just saying is that I think there are some support systems in place already, even though it's not for the majority of the budget, because that's the school budget. But it's planning that we haven't had before, and it is a wonderful improvement. And I think that is a reasonable alternative to a rigid cap.
Just a quick note, Marianne, is that while I agree, and the facts show that the tax rate has gone down,
Right.
the tax impact to individuals
Has gone up.
Has gone up.
Yeah.
Of course, but that's
it is.
based on the evaluation of their home and property. So
Right, but I
people's
always-
houses have gone up in value. My house, well, mine didn't. Previous house went up in value, so my bottom line tax bill, yes, but the rate that I was taxed at is lower.
Right, but that, in theory, if our expenditures stayed flat and the assessed values of the properties doubled, the amount of money that people pay wouldn't change at all. Their tax rate would just drop. Because it's just,
Yeah.
it's a ratio. So
Correct.
tax rate, we always like to talk about tax rates and comparing them against other communities and these sorts of things, and it's an interesting metric. It's a way to quickly apply how much is it going to cost me based on what I know about my house. But in terms of talking about stabilizing costs for the people in our community, tax rate's like the wrong number to look at.
I would respectfully disagree. Folks went up post-COVID, their value from $300,000 to $600,000. Unfortunately or fortunately, your property taxes revenue for the state. So it's out of the town's control what your house value is worth. Unfortunately, for folks like me, I'm going to die in my house. So it's not going to matter if my house is worth 300,000 or 600,000. I'm still going to have to pay my taxes, that tax bill. But that's out of the town's control.
It is not, that's what the budget is.
But the, right,
No, that's-
but the expenses
The tax
that we
rate
have.
is within the town.
Don't argue with that.
Okay.
Argue with spending.
Who's that?
Let's,
Podium.
comments come from the podium, please.
And before he gets to the podium, one of the things that is impacting everybody the most over the last 5 years is that demand, that value of your house has gone up disproportionately to the value of the commercial property. So that tax burden that was being shifted, that was being handled by commercial property, has shifted because the values over here have changed so much. So now that single-family homes are worth so much that it's, we don't have any control over that.
Relative to
the
the value
piece.
of commercial properties, the value of homes has gone up somewhere. The tax burden has shifted to
It's
homes
disproportionate.
instead of
And that has been one of
businesses.
the larger impacts in this community over the past
Not
5 years.
spending is part of it, but the shift of values has changed as well.
All right, back to some public comment.
Good evening, John Christ, and I will say for transparency, I am a member of the planning board, which has some oversight over the capital improvements plan. So with that being said, yes, taxes are a burden and they're difficult, and I think we'd all in this room probably agree with that. It's really hard to get that bill. That being said, I think a lot of what Scott said at the beginning is 100% correct, and I'm not going to repeat all that. And I was kind of checking off tick boxes in my own brain as you were mentioning a lot of those issues of the impact of kind of, seems like kneecapping ourselves to have a tight tax cap that's not flexible. And if we start to grow, it becomes very difficult to grow with that, to make investments in our growth that can bring in more revenue. And instead, what you might end up with in a few difficult years is not being able to invest in infrastructure, the roads start falling apart, other problems start to develop, and we become a less desirable town to be. And we will start raising less and less tax money and revenue over time as our infrastructure crumbles. And I am hard pressed to find a community in New Hampshire that has benefited from a tax cap, especially one that's not in any way pegged to inflationary rates of various sorts. I'm not really in favor of one of those either. But at the very least, that allows for some kind of pegging to real life changes in their world rather than an arbitrary number. In the end, though, I look at what this town has been doing in the last several years, bringing capital improvements plan into our yearly operations with transparency, very carefully looking at our budget, and it's actually really impressive. It's a very carefully done process that is really impressive for me to look at and see just how carefully we are thinking about where we're spending money, how we can even that out over time so it doesn't hit taxpayers differently from year to year, and so it can be predictable. And yes, things are getting more expensive, and our grocery bills are also going up. A lot of things are going up, and putting a cap on what it takes for us to survive is not the way forward. We all have a chance, as a few here have said, to vote the budget down if we want, or suggest amendments to the budget when it comes up. But to not be able to make a realistic budget with a arbitrary cap on it, it really seems kind of foolhardy. I've seen some really good judgment on the select board since I've been in this town, and investments in the future, and sometimes that does cost money, but it also pays for itself in the long run. And it does hurt the pocketbook. And I think the select board is doing a really good job of making sound budgeting decisions. And thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Katie, back to the podium again.
Katie Wood-Hedberg. I would also want to second a lot of what Scott said. I have been in this town since 97, and I've had the privilege to serve on the Plymouth Elementary School Board for 12 years, and currently I'm a county commissioner, so I have been intimately involved with making budgets, not the town budget, but the others. And I will tell you, when you get that tax bill that says your next year tax increase for your employees is going to be 12 or 15%, which it was some of the years when I was on the school board, or in the county when we were just notified that the county complex that there's a potential that our sewage rates are going to go up by 65%. A 3% tax cap just doesn't make any sense. We are all affected by taxes, and every time it comes, it's a little shock to pay our taxes, and I understand that, and I understand many people are struggling. But if we lose some of our fire EMS, we won't have someone to come help us, or our police. And if we have a 3% tax cap, we may lose those people. I think it was the town of Rochester, and this was with the school district, but they have to cut several million from their budget because of their tax cap, and I think most of that had to do with the increase of their insurance through the school care when they've changed those laws. And on top of everything, one of the things that's happening is the state, by legislation they've enacted, has downshifted many costs to the towns. And so as we pay for services that we think we all deserve and our rights and not privileges, if the state's not helping to pay for it, we stand up for our neighbors, but it hurts our pocketbooks. But I really disagree with a hard and fast tax cap, because I think, as Mr. Chris said, it could, in the short and certainly the long term, decrease the investment, the commercial investment in our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
A few questions for you guys. What's an average increase?
His name?
Your name?
Oh, Bruce Wiggett. What's an average increase on a budgetary year?
I don't have the number in front of me.
Budget?
Yeah, for your budget. Like, what's your average? What do you normally increase it?
We increase it based on the needs groups.
Yeah, I don't
So
have the
we'll
number.
What's the average? But what's the
Can I finish,
average, Ben?
please?
Certainly
Can I
can.
finish? Can I finish? Can I finish?
Sure.
Okay. So when we start our budget process, we start from a zero balance budget. Each department head comes in with all the wants that they have. We look at those wants and we say, what are the needs? So can I say that we look at an average increase in the budget? No, it's based on the community's needs in the budgets that the department heads put forward that meet the expectations of the townspeople. So there's not an average that I'm looking at. If I'm going into next year's budget, I'm not saying 3
Scott,
or 5%.
it wasn't, I'm not saying that you would intentionally look to increase. I was asking what the average over time, how much does it normally, when you do that process, how much does it increase?
I think the audience member interjection is we could
Four-
take that as
between 4 to
reasonably
6%.
accurate. I think it's between 4 to
Which is
6%. But
okay. So I just needed to make
reserve
sure
the
that,
right to, on town meeting, give you a more accurate number, but
and
yes.
I look forward to it. Because for me, my biggest concern is if we're saying it's going to kneecap us at 3%, and we normally are only going up 4%, it's something to discuss. We're not trying to kneecap you. We're just trying to look at the overall, my taxes went up 22%. It becomes one of those pieces. And someone earlier had said, you had no control over the valuation. And you're right. You had zero control. We're now looking at Zillow, apparently, for our houses to be evaluated. Okay. How much did we net more using those? Question to you, like how much more money did we net through taxes this year than last year with the new valuation?
That would be the increase that you're talking about.
So what was our exact increase? Because you go to our website.
Are you asking about valuation increase?
So my
or are you
valuation
asking
went
about
from
the amount of taxes we collected.
the amount of taxes you collected. How much more?
I will get you the real number on that, but 4 to 6% would be the number that I would give you.
So you'd say that even though my taxes went up 22%, overall we only net 4%.
Because there's winners and losers.
Right, others went down.
There's people's taxes that went down, and there's people's taxes that went up, and somewhere it meets at that 4 to 6% additional revenue through taxation.
Okay. So it seems like everybody that's in this room were the losers? Yeah. Like it feels that way?
Yeah, it was a winner.
Yep,
was gonna
I
say
was
that-
the winner as well.
That would fit the people who would come out for a discussion like this, right? That,
You know, they,
yes, it would
so
be-
I just, yeah.
Yep.
And I can appreciate that, like that there are, I just wanted to make sure, Liz, I was hearing you say like you had no control over that. Well, we do have control over how much we net from that increase,
We have control over how much we spend.
how much we spend on it.
Correct.
Which is the whole concept of what people here are trying to get forward. If 3% is something that you're like, that's gonna kneecap us, perhaps the conversation becomes maybe 4%. And then if this same thing happens, everybody felt like they had a voice. Because right now, even though we can go to all these meetings, not everybody is as involved as you folks, which I appreciate you all, that you put in the time and the effort. When you get the big bill, and then you look at the proposed things and you see more spending, it feels like it's tone deaf. Well, we're all looking at our taxes at a 22% or 23% increase, saying, whoa, pump the brakes. And the proposal is, we're gonna spend more, and your taxes are definitely gonna go up next year. It becomes disconcerting. So I just needed those two numbers, and I look forward to any sort of response. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the other thing that factors into everything you're talking about, Bruce, is also the revenues, which vary, right? It's a complicated balance to know exactly what the amount we have to raise by taxes, because we don't know the revenues till we know the revenues. But
Can I make a comment here?
yeah, of course.
So I would, the concept of, Bruce, what you were talking about with the budget and warrant articles, I'm coming up on a year here on this board, and when I attended town meeting last year as a, as a voting member, I remember distinctly, there were financial impacts of the budget, there were financial impacts of the warrant article, and the voters made educated decisions based on that knowledge. This board does not have any say on what gets voted in. We can, we put together a budget of what we recommend, or what we think we need to operate. We put together warrant articles for this is what needs to happen if we want to add another ambulance. This is, the special cases, and it's really up to the voters. I mean, it's not, this is not a city council form of government where you elect us to make these decisions for you. The voters of the town are the legislative body. You as voters make the decisions on what we raise as taxes.
Acknowledging we have an outsized influence on that because we decide what
We
shows
have,
up.
we can provide options
Yes. Yes.
and recommendations, and we do recommend some things based on our knowledge, but it's really up to the voters to choose.
William Bond again. So I think two things. One is we're talking about tax caps, but we're actually specifically talking about a budget cap. I think there should be a little bit of clarification there, just in terms of our terminology. But the kneecapping and the restricting, we're not actually, the whole time I was up here before was actually clarifying how we're not kneecapping, but we do have options. But I think what I would summarize it as is we're going from an opt-out model to an opt-in model. We're going from, hey, we as the voters have to show up, to opt out of potentially a large increase to keep it, to going into an opt-in model where we say there is at most a 3% raise, and then people from the town have to say, look, here's something that's worth organizing around to go beyond the 3%, right? And so it's not kneecapping, it's changing the balance of like what the default is, really. And I understand it's more complicated. And the question is like who, like as the voters, what do we want to do, right? Do we want that opt-in versus the opt-out model, right? Do you want when you sign up, when you move to town to be like, I have to show up to all these meetings to make sure things don't kind of go off the rails, or like, oh, people have to show up when they're like, yes, we need these improvements, or things look like, they, need improvements, stuff like that.
I think, just to quickly address that particular point, because I think you're right. I think that is fundamentally what we're talking about is an opt-out versus an opt-in model. The one thing to think about as you think about that change in model is the people who are recommending where we spend our money today are the most informed and most engaged. And in an opt-in model, the people who would be making those decisions would be the people who were loudest.
Or the people proposing, not making, because the same people make the decision. No, the same people will be making the decisions, the voters, but the people who are
Not the recommendations.
opposing.
The recommendations would be coming from the loudest people in our community, not the most engaged and informed.
Okay. I mean, we also have the most engaged and most informed people saying that a tax rate decrease is somehow better for us when our valuations have gone up. So, I mean, there is that side of it. The other question I had was, we were talking about the capital improvements plan. What percentage of our total proposed budget is actually included? Because I had numbers in my head that like our budget's around 9.5 million, but the capital improvements only 2.5 per year. So there's a very large, like
That sounds right. I would say
3/4 of it is not
rough
actually.
numbers, it's a quarter.
0.1 on capital.
Yeah, in like very rough numbers, a quarter's fire and ambulance, a quarter's police, a quarter's capital, a quarter's government.
Right. So
Rest.
the capital improvement plan gives us an idea into the future, but mostly just for a quarter of our budget. The rest of it is not covered by that same kind of.
3/4 is operational, yeah.
Most of the capital improvement cost items don't go into the budget either. The budget is kind of the recurring things that happen every year.
No, that's all in the budget.
It's all in the budget.
As we're talking about this
Okay.
particular
Yeah, true,
amendment, it's
true.
all in the budget.
Oftentimes we separate out as warrant articles though.
We have to separate out as warrant articles, yes.
But they're all in, like, I remember looking at that like spreadsheet, printout spreadsheet, and I saw the line items there. So again, just, kind of questions to clarify sort of what we're talking about in the process. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good clarification.
Molly McCann, I'm a member of the planning board. I live on Parker Street. I guess I have so many thoughts in my head. I'm going to start with just the kind of overarching understanding that this is not a city council. These are members of this town on this board who voluntarily serve this town and do the hard work of figuring out what we need as a town to function correctly.
We do get paid, technically.
Do you? How much do you get paid?
Paid $2,000 a year.
Holy crap. Why didn't I sign up on the election?
There's a slightly
we're
less
not
than
just
minimum
volunteers.
wage.
We're not volunteers.
Okay,
Technically, it's
I will
not
amend my comment. You get paid a small amount. I've learned something, thank you. Nonetheless, you are members of this town. That is a prerequisite to being on this board. So you have an interest in this town functioning as it should without undue burden to anybody, hopefully, that lives here. And as a town, if we want to function, if we want to have our ambulances, if we want to have our police, if we want to have all things we need, we have to have a budget. It's pretty clear to me, I mean, I strongly trust the staff of the town to be extremely informed about what we need. And I understand taxes are incredibly burdensome. I understand that our taxes are not fully in this town's control. It's in the market's control to a degree. And I would like to keep living in a town that functions correctly, and I don't believe a 3% cap is going to allow that to happen. It actually, Zach said something about not being personally offended by this. I actually am pretty personally offended by this cap because I think it's going to be very detrimental in the long term. I think it's undercapitalization for short-term gain to some people. And I think that's really unfortunate, even though it is probably painful. I'm trying to empathize with both sides here, but it's just really hard. So there's the other thing I was going to say. Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me think about that. Thinking about the opt-in versus opt-out model, I can understand, I mean, that my comment about you guys being members of this town, I feel like there's a dynamic where there's like an us versus them thing, but you are us. And I trust you more than me to put forth ideas about what we need because I have not studied it. You know, I studied planning board things, and I understand planning board things, and I understand the budget a lot less. And if we need an ambulance, how am I going to know that unless I'm in conversation with a fire chief, which Scott is? If we need new roads, I'm going to see my road is really messed up. I guess I could call the highway department. But if I get together 25 of my friends to say, hey, we should put this on the budget, and then no one understands, like, where's that money actually going to come from, and then we put the burden on you to retrofit it back, it's just, I can see how it's very difficult to function that way as a town. So that's my comments. I don't have anything more to say, and that was, thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Mark Halloran. Scott, I just have a couple of clarifying questions regarding the statute. I know in Senate Bill 2 towns with the default budget, which in and of itself is a soft cap, there are exemptions and exceptions for collective bargaining costs in contractual matters that go out a few years. They're exempt from the cap. Are there any exemptions under this statute?
I can't give you an answer right now, Matt.
Okay.
I
So
don't
I
know.
think that's really critical, because when we get into collective bargaining agreements, those costs, we vote on those costs in a warrant article, and they're laid out in year one of the contract. And I guess if we approve those costs in year one, then we've approved them for year 2, year 3. And I'm asking is there an exemption or an exception for pre-approved collective bargaining agreements or pre-approved contractual arrangements? I guess that's my question.
It's my understanding that there's no exception, but we certainly can look into that.
There should be, at least on the bond payments, whether or not the unions are covered in there, I don't know.
Are you waiting for an invitation?
Sorry, I didn't know if there was still conversation going on. Nick Mason, High Street. I'll be real quick. 2 things to Scott's point and John's point, and maybe Molly. If you need an example of a New Hampshire community that has enacted a tax cap and the negative externalities that have come from it, you can look no further than Franklin, New Hampshire, where they have been unable to fund their CIP. They pave even fewer roads than we do, and they have a city council and not select board, but their city council is currently unable to operate out of their building because of deferred maintenance and it being deemed inadequate for the public. And then second of all, kneecap is probably too strong of a word. I would use hamstring. You don't want to hamstring the budget committee.
Switching body parts at that point, okay?
It's Winter Olympics time. Everybody's thinking about Nancy Kerrigan.
You're dating yourself with that one. I don't think everybody gets that one.
Come on.
I got
it. I get that one. All right.
I don't want to call anybody out, but there was a loud voice in the back earlier. In the hallway,
I thought
perhaps?
that was Bruce. Oh, it wasn't Bruce?
Okay. All right. I won't
So
call
you
him out.
do want to call somebody out. You just
I
don't
do,
want-
I do, but I won't.
We appreciate public comment.
I'm thinking my good friend Matt Yetton from the planning board has some thoughts back there. Matt, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Man, invitation just come to
I'm inviting you. You're a thoughtful guy. All right, thank you.
We love you, Matt.
I knew you would. Thank you, Matt.
I just had to express my love to Matt, and he would find the podium.
Matt, am I going to see you at Walmart after this meeting?
Yes, you will. Hello, Matt Yetton. I think a lot of times, just a bit of clarification for everyone tonight. A lot of times, I think people get hung up on tax rate and valuation and tax rate and valuation. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with spending. And this is how taxes work in New Hampshire, right? So the town says we need $10 million to operate this town successfully. So the town goes to the state and says, hey, state, we need $10 million to operate our town. And the state says, great, what is your town valued at? The assessments of our town. Town says, well, our assessment is of all of our buildings and all that stuff is worth this. And then the town does a little the state does a calculation, says that's your tax rate. That's as simple as it works. So I think sometimes we get involved with like, the tax rates are going up or the tax rates are going down. it doesn't really matter. It's the spending. And I think a lot of the times it's missed that that's driven heavily in the state of New Hampshire by the schools, not necessarily by the municipalities. And unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but whether you choose to or not, I think a lot of the attention is often driven on the municipality. And then when you look at the school board budget, I don't think there's as many voices being spoken there. So that's all. That's my little 101 on taxes. That's how they work, and there's nothing too magical about them. And I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. I'm sure you can correct me if I did, but in a simple matter, that's how it is. It's, we need to spend that. We need this much money. This is what everything's worth. Then the state tells the town, this is what your tax rate is. That's why it changes every year. So it is all derived from spending, and not just municipality, county, school, state. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. And just to further highlight Matt's point about where does the tax rate come from, roughly 40% of the tax rate is the municipality, roughly 40% of it's the school, and then county and state education are the other two pieces. In rough numbers. School's a little higher than us, but maybe 44, 45%. All right. Other. That's the tax rate.
No. Based on that. That's the question. What it was. Whole numbers.
From gross appropriations. So Ted is showing me that from a gross appropriations perspective, which also has some complexity to it, because in 23-24 we had a $1.8 million bond. We have a full gross appropriation of the full bond money because life is complicated. So when you look at gross appropriations, it actually looks like our actual expenditure went down 3.4% between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. There's a lot to be said about why that doesn't feel real, but. And then from 24 to 25, it went up 6%. So, but gross appropriations aren't really quite the right number to look at either. You got to look at the amount that was raised from the taxpayers. So you got to go one step deeper into the.
So this will be a discussion again on the floor at town meeting?
On the floor at town meeting, and I will be sure we've got the average increase in how much we have raised from taxation over the past 10 years. And we'll make sure to know if there's any exceptions in terms of the RSA. Anything else that, this is a good time for you to assign us homework. Is there anything else that folks would love more detail on the floor at town meeting? Because we have time to prepare material. 2 weeks. And by we, I'm volunteering myself, not Anne.
Mr. Chairman, can I share a comment if we don't get any feedback on this one?
Yeah, please.
So my thought is that I really appreciate everyone who's spoken, on both sides of this topic tonight. I suspect we'll have people speaking at town meeting on this as well. I would like to point out that in the past, we've had roughly 25% of the people who voted on Tuesday show up to vote at town meeting on Wednesday. I think we can do better than that, and I think that as long as we keep it civil and people share their thoughts in a positive way, it's a good way for the town to come together. This is a tough thing to get through, but we're a community, and the democratic process will get us through it. I think oftentimes people show up at town meeting. Sometimes they're on the fence on a topic. Oftentimes people have already researched things and made up their minds. I've seen a lot of people make really impassioned arguments at town meeting, but in reality, the number of people who come on the fence is probably pretty small. But it's good to share your thoughts. When you come to town meeting, be prepared, have some concise points. But I think we all appreciate when points are made efficiently and we can move on with our night too. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Can I say one thing?
I'm done. I'm done.
Yes.
I'm Annie Schneider. On the word about people going to town meeting, I suggested this years ago. It was a different town administrator at the time. Everybody loved the idea. Didn't happen. This doesn't need to be bought on Etsy, but a placard out in the town, in front of this building, that says, town meeting, Tuesday, 7 o'clock at the school, be there, would really help a lot of people. That's a real simple thing.
It is
Could
Wednesday.
be done.
It's Wednesday, though.
Damn. All right, well, that's a good point.
For anybody watching,
Yeah, for
it's
anybody-
Wednesday.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Vote.
my-
Vote. Paper ballots are Tuesday. The deliberative session is Wednesday, 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Wednesday at
The-
Somebody could set that up.
it's.
It will be done, Annie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Was the best recommendation of the evening. Not to diminish all the other good comments. Any other comments before we wrap? All right, with that, it's 6:55, and I will close the public hearing, and we will talk more at town meeting on this topic. I assume there'll be a small exodus here, which I'll let settle down.
We have something that's simple.
I would take this time to use the bathroom.
We're gonna go next to Chris Mayhew, and Foul Inc. will be what's next.
So in your packages, you should have a very large handout, that came in.
Yep.
Everybody had a chance to review that, I hope.
What's it?
You reviewed it, I hope?
I looked at it, it's
Yeah.
100 and
I can
something.
explain it when they come up to the podium.
And I did not get a chance to invite a member of the Conservation Commission.
There are members here.
Oh, there's here, okay.
Yep.
Oh,
There are
good.
at least two I can see from here.
At least two, yeah. Is Mr. Chris Mayhew here this evening? Yes, sir. Awesome. Would you like to join us? You have a pile of, and you can stand at the podium if you choose, or you can sit if
Oh,
it's
it doesn't
gonna be
matter to me,
longer.
wherever-
So
wherever's-
whatever's more comfortable for you. Do you want to introduce the topic?
Yes, I'm Christopher Mayhew. I'm representing my company, Fowl Inc. We live and are based on Old Hebron Road, and we are here to propose our purchase of the Claybrook parcel that was donated to the town several years ago. We provided several documents, list of findings, conservation plan as well, management plan. I'm not sure if you guys have had the adequate time to look at it. I know they are rather lengthy, but we're looking for any sort of discussion to see if the town would be amenable to this purchase.
I will admit for myself, I have not had adequate time to read
All
the
good.
packet.
I'm
Do we-
happy to table it, and we can put this off for another meeting if we want to get our heads wrapped around things. We don't have to put everybody on the spot and go through everything.
I think that would be great. My two things that I would ask is if you could give us just a little overview of what you're accomplishing here, what you're trying to do. I think that would help give us a good sense when we go to read it.
Yes.
And then I don't know if the Conservation Commission has reviewed this already.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Greg nodded.
And any.
Oh, they have.
Sufficiently.
Okay, so if the Conservation Commission has any commentary on this, we would appreciate it. But also, I won't put you on the spot because I'm also refusing to be put on the spot on the topic tonight.
So our proposal is to purchase the property that abuts my property, our property. We've been doing conservation-based management on it since the 80s. It originally started off as a horse farm, cattle farm, and then it transitioned as livestock went away. We then shifted into managing specifically for wildlife habitat. So when the town purchased or was received the land off of the Favres, we had initially approached Peter Favre to purchase the property. He had sold several other tracts of land to surrounding neighbors. And unfortunately, he decided that his best case for the land was to donate to the town, which is understandable. There was already a conservation easement on it, but now we are here to see if you guys would be basically amenable to us continuing to do our habitat management that we are currently doing on our property and on another property here in Plymouth, and extend that onto the property itself. Obviously, I know there's currently a conservation easement on it, and there's also, I'm not sure if there's other building restrictions upon it. I believe it is all documented within the management plan. Other than that,
There is 80, is it the full 88.5 acres that you're looking at? Okay. So it is 88.5 acres with a current value on the property of 549.1.
What's the map and lot, or the address?
What's the location?
208 something.
Old Hebron Road?
Yep.
What'd you say, 208?
Chris, do you know what the map and lot number?
22812.
I have it probably in my doc.
22812.
When I look, so I pulled up the map that's in Appendix A. What's the piece that's yours on? Yeah, please. So we're talking about the highlighted piece, right?
Yes,
Yep.
we are. So our property is these three.
These three.
Yeah.
And all three of those current properties are in.
Thank you.
Yes, so this is
I didn't have the map not 22812. Right.
So, yeah, there.
Thank you. Did you see this? Did you see this?
So this one's current use, and this one's where the house is.
That's where the house is.
Did?
And then is this one in current use, or is it too small?
So it's too small.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then, if this was to go forward, is the intention to merge the lots, or is the intention to keep the house kind of segregated, or?
Well, obviously, we would want to probably keep the parcels separated. That way going forward, you know, anything that the town deems, you know, like inappropriate or deems they would want to be involved with on the
What's that?
property.
Do you know what road this is? That's Texas Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
muddy
cleaner.
in
Yep.
between Private and, you know, our company.
Yep, I was just trying to understand that piece, thank you.
Yeah.
So a question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
You know, obviously this parcel wouldn't be free,
Correct.
and you would be paying for it. How would you know, what's in it for you? You know, why do you want to buy it versus letting it continue to be managed by the town?
Is it being managed by the town? Is there a management plan that is currently, or, because if there is, then I mean, by all means, but as I understand, we are so under-resourced, you know, that I know that our Conservation Commission has a big strain put on them every year, so we're trying to lessen the burden on them, trying to, you know, become another conservation group that the town would be able to partner with, that we would all have similar desires, outcomes for the properties that obviously the town owns or that exist in the town of Plymouth. So ours, right now, obviously, our little bit of management on our property over the last 30, 40 years has seen an increase in wildlife. And obviously, leaving land, not touching land is more akin to preservation than it is to conservation. Conservation indicates an active engagement with the land, and I know we all want to see land stay the way that it is. That's why we enroll it in conservation easements. But when land stays stagnant for too long, then that land shifts into another type of ecosystem, you know, just through succession, that originally when we had it, we wanted it for, you know, so originally the conservation agreement was, or conservation habitat management plan on it was to promote upland habitat species. And what we've seen in the past with it has been kind of under the private land ownership. Previous private land ownership was kind of antithetical to that. So now we are sort of at a point where, you know, we are seeing such a burden from not only the lack of management of that piece, but, you know, other pieces in town are definitely, you know, going through a lot of issues. The property that we own in along the highway, for one, inundated with knotweed, invasives everywhere. Trying to get ahead of that, be proactive, you know, prevent that from spreading throughout the town.
So how do you fund?
Personal, out of our personal funds.
And why not work with the Conservation Committee to? I just
We've attempted to work with the Conservation Committee. We've reached out. I reached out to them not this previous January, a year before, in 25. We had a meeting with them. The whole going forward was that they wanted to get the NRI done before they made any conclusions, came to any conclusions on the property. We did not hear back from them. I reached out this past, I think, December. There was supposedly, we were put on a meeting with them. It must have been wires crossed. We weren't sure if we had to attend or not. Decisions, I guess, were made, but there was never we were never given the ability to put forward our proposal.
I assume this property was included in the NRI that was completed?
Yeah, I mean, the entire community, all of the town of Plymouth was included, but not every parcel was visited.
Okay. Was this one of the parcels that was visited or not?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, you did not receive.
I did not receive a letter. I did not receive, yeah.
Yeah, because you would have as an abutter when the
Everybody
process.
who was visited was given a letter that they had to agree to participate.
But if we're talking about the town.
The town
The town portion is what we're talking about,
Yeah.
not the.
Not theirs.
Not our.
The town would have probably not had to receive a letter.
Right. That's the piece I was
Right.
wondering was.
So was it visited, do you know?
I don't know, but I bet it was. We could ask him, it's still in the process of being developed into.
The NRI is still not.
Oh, it's not completed. Okay.
Well, that's again, yeah, why we, you
Well, we
know.
haven't heard anything because it's not complete.
Exactly, that would make sense. So yeah, again, why I said, you know, if we wanted to table this, obviously we're
let's-
open to discussions. We want to work, we want to be seen as somebody who can, you know, relieve a lot of the burden, not only on the Conservation Commission, but also on the taxpayers as well. It's not only would the property would basically go back onto the tax map again. So taxes would continue to be paid on that property as well.
But probably through current use, so at a hugely discounted tax rate.
Yes, to a degree, yeah.
I'm super interested to hear from the Conservation Commission if anybody is willing to speak unprepared. Thanks, Chris. Don't go too far because I'm sure we'll have questions.
Yes.
I mean, why is purchasing the parcel necessary to accomplish your means? We would be happy to welcome your participation in reducing any sort of invasives that we have on the property. We are always looking for volunteers to help with like trash removal, if that's an issue.
So part of the reason why we'd want to purchase it is then it opens up an entire realm of private funding that can be put into the Conservation Commission as well and into that particular piece of land. So now you're not only
Microphone, please.
Chris, can I encourage you to sit at this chair here just so that we can capture you on microphone? Thank you.
All right, better.
I assume so. Or Dan will come yell at me again.
So, yeah, essentially it enables more funding resources. It enables, I mean, I live a stone's throw away from the property. There's eyes on it always. I'm constantly on that property. I have been on that property my entire life. I know that in and out. We bring a historical sort of knowledge to the town and to that area in particularly that, you know, not a lot of people can really say. So having our own stake in it, you know, being partial, either a part owner or a full owner, kind of allows us to, you know, have our own stake in it.
Right. I think the commission, we did discuss this at quite a great length. I actually have some maps to support our position too. It's very highly rated wildlife habitat. It's a stream corridor, obviously. Clay Brook runs right through there. Clay Brook drains the north side of Plymouth Mountain all the way down to the Baker River. It's very, very essential inland water habitat for our town. Yes, right there. And I also have a copy that you can have too, Chris. And we feel that its highest use actually is being preserved, not actively managing the land. It's lowland wetland. It really wouldn't be appropriate to do timber harvesting in there. Maybe around the perimeter, but it's not likely to be a profitable activity, and it's really not necessary. We feel that the highest use is just to leave it alone and let the natural processes, the ecological processes that are occurring there now to continue as they are. But if there are invasives, that is something that we really would like to talk to you about. Maybe you could help us manage that.
I would appreciate that. To further extend on what you were saying about, we do not agree that we agree that the timber should be left on property as it is. It was previously logged and it was high graded. A lot of that timber got pulled that probably shouldn't have. A lot of it definitely encroached on, buffer zones that within stream boundaries. We're just trying to prevent, anything from, for example, the Oxbow property that was purchased, that is inundated with invasives. I have yet to see an invasives mitigation plan for it, or even a substantial management plan on it. We are trying to be proactive and get ahead of that before that happens, before anything can befall upon this property. There's a long list of findings that I have put together that could probably that would probably explain the situation a lot better than I am currently doing. But
well, you're correct. We are a volunteer commission and we have limited resources. We do what we can as community members that care a lot about our town and its environment. We are conducting this NRI with the eye that we will be able to identify those parcels, those areas of the town that are of a special ecological value to the town, that should be preserved. And we feel that this particular parcel already meets that qualification, and I think that's shown by the maps that I distributed, that it is a high quality parcel for preservation. And we don't really want to see any sort of active management of it, with the possible exception of invasives or trash removal, that sort of thing.
Could you, Chris, could you talk a little bit about what you mean by active management?
Active management essentially just means, again, preservation versus conservation. Conservation means, if you're trying to get the best out of the land, best out of the habitat, then you have to consistently worry about soils, you have to worry about trees, you have to worry about, all of your successional growth, you have to worry about nutrients, you have to worry about a whole long list of things, that I know are very foreign to people in New Hampshire. Land and wildlife management isn't a thing that is commonly done around these parts. You go to anywhere in New York, southern parts, Pennsylvania, south of, anywhere south of the Mason-Dixon line, and everybody is actively managing their lands, especially larger landowners. Preservation, stepping away from something and just being like, I'm going to let it just do what it's doing. Well, that happened down at the Oxbows, and it's at a point where now, if something isn't done, you're going to lose, every day that you allow, that to occur, then you're one day behind, so we're trying to get ahead of the ball. So we know that the whole purpose of the donation of the land was for a tax write-off. We're trying to continue with the stewardship of all of the land that's in the neighborhood, which several individuals, larger landowners, are all doing active stewardship on their lands. And we just want to, contribute in the way that we think would be fair.
I would say that the commission also felt strongly that the original intent of the Favres was to put it in the hands of the town to shepherd and steward, and we do also want to honor that. We don't feel like it really is ours to sell.
So is this the intent of Peter Favre, or is this the intent of and the brothers, or is this the intent of
We have
Al and
not
Bertha?
asked the Favres. We just are believing that that is probably.
I understand, but you said that you believe that the intent of the Favres was to do that, but we've been in that neighborhood for 40 years. I've known the Favres. I knew the Favres and knew Al and Bertha very well. Al intended a lot of that land to be sold off to the neighbors. The reason why there was a lot of neighbors that live up there for as long as they do is because they like the road that it is, and how the way it is. We currently feel that inviting the public onto this piece of property winds up opening a whole litany of issues with the neighboring parcels, which we've seen. I've listed in my findings as well numerous issues that we've come into across with public on not only this parcel, but private parcels, our own parcel, so trying to, manage not only habitat, but the expectations of what this piece is and what this piece was versus what this piece could be is sort of how we're gonna come to a conclusion on this. But
I'll state for the record that the Conservation Commission has no recreational interest in that property.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there any public use currently being encouraged in that space?
No.
Not currently, no. There's.
That's not correct. This isn't, the conservation easement stipulates public access.
So, the easement stipulates, I'm going to repeat Lisa Donner because she's not on microphone. The easement stipulates public access. My question wasn't as much about the stipulation, but about the activity. Is the public using that space for something? And I see nods in the audience. What
Are there any trails on it that we maintain?
We don't have any trails.
Hunting, fishing. That's
hunting
about.
and fishing? So people are in there fishing Claybrook.
I should be clear, maybe that is true. Maybe that is true. I should be clear.
Other than that, there's rarely anybody goes into that piece of woods for any other reason. No, people aren't going for hikes through there. People aren't trying to get their mountain bikes through there.
So there's not any active trails. It's just access to the stream or access to.
Yep.
The easement that covers the parcel predates the gifting of the parcel to the town, and the easement was written more with the property that now is owned by the LeBlanc family up along Texas Hill Ridge, with that in mind. But the language of the easement still pertains to the new parcel, because that's what it says in the deed. I'm gonna yield the floor to Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
And I don't want to bump Greg off the podium, but I do have another perspective on this because I am on the Pemmy Baker Land Trust that holds the conservation easement and monitors that property. In order to go into an easement, there had to be a management plan. And Forco did the management plan for that whole area of the Favres, including the Blancs own also land that is in a conservation easement. So there was a whole bunch of land put in conservation in order to create a connective community of conserved properties, not preserved, conserved properties. And so there's management plan. It's been in that management plan for less than 5 years. This was a very new property. There's not really need for any mitigation or action right now. As you were saying, it has been logged. I did a monitoring visit with Pemmy Baker Land Trust just 2 months ago, I think. We walked through there. It's very wet. It is a nice little piece of property. It's nicely, there's lots of brush, there's lots of canopy cover. It is a very nice parcel for habitat endowments. And possibly for me, from my perspective, most importantly, it is near the headwaters of Clay Brook. It takes all the runoff off of Plymouth Mountain and those upland areas around there that come into the Clay Brook drainage, and it manages it as a watershed so that if it does flood, if we do have a big event, it doesn't gush down into the more developed parts of town. And that, if for no other reason, is a really good rationale for leaving it in its natural state rather than thinning out any of the brush and things like that. But yeah, so it is designated as a public access. We looked at the possibility of creating a trail in there when it came to the land trust. It's very thickety. It's not a pleasant place to hike through. You would have to clear a lot, I think, to make it so, and there's other places in the area to hike. So we just felt that it was probably better left as a riverine habitat.
Going off of what was said, also surrounding lands, you know, with conservation easements, hiking trails, Normal Blank purchased, again, property off of the Favre family. That is all private stewardship. So we want to make sure that, like, we're trying to align things with the way that the road has been for as long as, you know, my family's been in this town. It's always been private landowners up there. We're just trying to stay with that alignment.
Jessica Mayhew, 1/3 of Fowl Inc. I did just want to mention too that the management plan, while extensive, is also scientifically based. And so I'm a PhD, conservation science, and so part of this is not just to like upend what the current like management structure has been, right? This is very much in the spirit of what has been done, is going to continue to be done in a very sort of thoughtful and detailed manner. So.
You're referencing the management plan that's
That has
included
been-
here,
Yes.
not the management plan that Lisa was.
No, I have
referencing.
not seen the management plan, the current management plan that was produced by Forco.
It
So
used to be available online through the Pemmy Baker Land Trust, and I have been having trouble coming up finding it, obviously, so I'm not sure if it's more of a situation or whatever. But
If the board's going to take this back and just get our head around it, is it possible, Lisa, for us to get a copy of the existing management plan so that we can kind of understand what is intending to happen in that space now?
Yeah, if
Thanks,
you
Jess,
can't
by the
find it, we're in a process of sort of shifting platforms, and so it might have disappeared temporarily, but I can get it to you, I can get it to the whole select board.
Yeah, if you get it to the board, certainly, I think Chris would appreciate having it, but if you get it to the board in particular, that would be appreciated by us, I think.
yeah, again, this isn't an attack on Conservation Committee or, you know, trying to replace the committee. We're just trying to be another asset within the town that, you know, can bring private funds into conservation for the town.
All right, any other questions from the board before we table this for maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month?
However long you guys need.
I think the NRI plan was to give us the final report in March.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
As far as we know, they gave us a preliminary report in December. So we have some maps, but they haven't written up their analysis of it, and that was due in March, so.
Feels like it would be good to have all that together. Do you think that we're likely to get that before the second March meeting, which is
23rd.
the 23rd? Or should we delay to
I would say we wait till
April?
April.
April would give us a chance to look at it.
Okay with April? All right. Let's plan to do that. We'll take this back up the first meeting in April, which will be the second Tuesday in April.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, appreciate your time and your desire for conservation.
Thank you.
Submit that, you guys can hold on to it, it's a deed.
All right, and have you seen a copy of this at all? All of this?
I think I've got the PDFs. I haven't.
If you want, I can send that to you.
No, I put them in, because I
I have my notes on it.
Right, I wasn't sure if you would.
I put them in.
That brings us to Frank McLean
The chair.
and a pilot discussion. And I will extend the same if you would prefer to sit, you're welcome to do so.
Listen, I'm at your behest
Wherever you're more
Right
comfortable,
here,
Chris.
everybody can see me, right?
Frank.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Frank McLean, Habitat for Humanity, right here on Tenny Mountain Highway. Good to see everybody. You know, this has been a long time that we've been really wrapping our head around how to do this fairly, equitably, and optically, right? Scott and I have talked a number of times. Informally, I've talked with a lot of people throughout town that are in these roles. So there is no like guideline to pilots, right? What we have is that has been demonstrated in the town. One could use that, and it's very slim as far as you know what the actual percentage of their assessed values are, right? If you look at how much tax exempt property that the state owns and what they're donating, and it's complicated, right? The revenue stream from that, and it is in a bunch of different ways. It's a small percentage. Spear, it's a small percentage of their overall value. Mid-state and the property out on Fairgrounds Road, very small percentages. So like looking at that, there wasn't a whole lot of factual data to be able to say, this is a real good feeling for that number, right? To like come up with that number. So fortunately, there's an RSA that the town is currently involved with that actually provides a lot of guidelines for how the town looks at subsidies to property owners, right? Which is what we are. We're a nonprofit and we own property. There's a subsidy called current use, which provides a real good look at subsidization to the community and what is deemed or considered to be acceptable. That's a pretty big number. So my proposal is to come in line with that. Well, we're willing to pay a little bit more than what the current, and I think I touched base with this before, with the current use numbers and say, as a percentage, let's look at the overall marketable value of all the current use land in town. Let's look at what it is reduced to and what we actually assess and generate tax revenue from. And we're willing to come in line with that and say, hey, we're providing services to town. We are building infrastructure. In the last 7 years, we've built 5 houses in town. Since 1985, we've built 30 houses in the general area here. And it's, you know, we're providing a service. So not only is this like above and we all know it's above and beyond, right? The requirements, but optically, we feel like it's good to shed some light on other subsidies in town and say, let's just come in line with what the town is kind of accepting without, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of people here today speaking out about the revenue loss from land in current use. And I'm not a proponent or opponent of current use. It just, I'm using this as the metric.
It's an interesting comparison, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you calculated what that fee would be from Habitat?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I feel so good about mentioning it. But I'm not real, I mean, if I say the number,
What
it's
is the
gonna.
percentage of current, what is the
Yeah,
percentage?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no problem. So my numbers are from July, but current use valuation marketable was about $42 million. This is 75% of the town. $42 million was its market value. That would be before any kind of reductions for the current use program. Okay.
Yep.
It is devalued, we'll call it that, to $900,000 roughly, a little over. It's like 940 or something, but let's just say $1 million. So we're reducing it 1/42 is what the average is. Now I have like extensively reviewed this, and there are outliers. There's people who are getting 1/100th, and there's people who are getting, you know, 1/10 reduction. So we just like, well, let's just go right down the middle, because people who are in the know just look at it and say, well, we reduced it from 42 million to a little under $1 million.
Yep.
And that's where we're at. With, you know, I mean, there's nothing lost on current use. That's what I'm saying, is that I'm not a proponent or opponent.
You're
We're
just using it as a
revenue
comparison of
stream.
a similar structure.
And a revenue stream to the town. And we'll do that forever. Not 5 years, not 2 years. As long as the current use program is as it is, we would be willing to do that forever. Yeah, on all our properties that are tax exempt.
Do you know what that looks like in terms of your actual property? What's the number? I don't know what your property is valued at. So you're talking about like a 97% reduction in the property value, and then applying just the municipal component of the tax rate to that valuation, or what's your math? How are you applying current use in terms of this proposed formula?
Let's just use the restore. The restore value is $800,000.
Okay.
So we would be looking at applying that same metric that the current use formula is, and we reduce that, the average, and then use that as the assessment for our taxable burden.
So you would be applying whatever the standard tax rate is, full boat, to that reduced assessed
Oh yeah,
value?
the current tax rate of $23.11, happy to apply that.
So
no borrowing necessary.
Effectively, you end up paying $400 in taxes.
More than that, but it's around that, yeah. And that's the number problem, right? Is that people hear that, and that's an issue for a lot of people. Because what is considered the fair share?
No, I mean, because current use is highly, highly devalued.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
and as we talked about earlier, there are two levels of current use. There's one where you can kind of restrict some uses, and there's one where you can take an additional 20% reduction if you allow recreation use. But you know, the whole point of current use is to tax land at its current value of farm and forest land, as opposed to its highest value of potential real estate development.
Yeah, where current use gets interesting is there's the concept of taking something out of current use. So let's say
you pay a penalty.
If you were to,
Which is you pay 10% of the current assessed value as a one-time penalty when you take it out of current use. So, you know, if you have a $500,000 property that's been in current use for years, when you take it out, you pay, it's $500,000, you pay $50,000 at one time, and then it's taxed at market rates from that point forward. But there's still savings.
but they're still, right, absolutely, it's still worth doing.
Right.
$400 doesn't seem to be very much out of something that is worth 800,000. I mean,
Yeah,
if
so
you're
the
thinking
par-
about it in terms of what we've got.
Yeah, if we think about the intent of current use as well, part of that intent is to keep large tracts of land
Together.
undeveloped together, not subsidized. I mean, not subdivided, right? So that's part of what you're trying to achieve with that. And
My problem with this is it's a little bit complex
it's
too.
not the
We
same
have to,
goal.
depreciate that thing or devalue it to a certain number and then apply a tax rate. I would be.
I mean,
much
the other
more-
way you would do it is you would say don't depreciate the value at all,
Say
just
whatever it is
apply
what it is.
1/42 of the tax rate to the full value of the building.
Something,
Right, but
something
that's
like that.
still, I mean, you
Or
get the
like-
same math.
Or like 0.5% or something to that effect that you can just say, this is
What-
the number.
I'm struggling because I just don't have it in front of me, but what's the proposed petitioned,
Article 38.
or what's Article 38 say? 2% of what?
A qualifying non-government tax exempt status as a tiered rate not to exceed 2% of excessive value, excluding town, state, federal, county, school district, and water sewer properties with revenues dedicated, but not limited to tax stabilization, municipal infrastructure, and rural land protection purposes. So basically 2% of assessed value.
So, which is $20 per thousand.
Which is $20 per thousand, yeah. Which is
Slightly lower than our current rate.
correct, yes.
Which is
How does that work? If there's a pilot agreement and the town brings in that revenue, but there's no I mean, the properties are still exempt from school taxes, are they not? Does the town keep all of that?
We would at that point.
Town
when the pilot
keeps
agreement
all
was
of
over.
what we-
If the town taxes are 40% of our total tax rate, it's interesting that in a pilot agreement that would be at $20 per thousand, we would be keeping the revenue from all of that, which I'm not sure. That would actually be more than,
Well,
the town would benefit from more than,
none of the nonprofits are going to pay 2%.
no, and
Not
none
gonna
of our
get there.
pilot agreements are of that magnitude.
That's why I was kind of saying something like
Right.
about a half.
Correct, correct.
And I think
yeah.
that's what we've
So
done recently
if you
with
were to
other
use the
pilot
current,
agreements.
if you use the current use 1/42nd valuation kind of equation, it takes the effective tax rate from $23 to 55 cents.
But this is a voluntary, I mean,
No, it's it's absolutely
That's
voluntary. Would I prefer a $500 a year pilot from Habitat for Humanity over $0?
I very
would
much appreciate
prefer that,
that Habitat is here and willing to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the best venue to negotiate a pilot agreement.
Well, we're willing to go to 1/40th and do better than the current
Better
use.
than the current use, folks?
I don't know.
And you can all come down there and shop anytime that we're open. We won't post it against no trespassing, which there's 3 types of current use. 2 types can be posted.
Yeah.
And in town, there are very few recreational current use parcels. So all of those current use parcels can be posted, no trespassing. But you guys can come down anytime.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you about, this is probably not the best venue to kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there is no other venue, though, unless we want to involve a lawyer, right? Because there's nothing about right to know that would give us any valid opportunity to have this conversation in a private
No,
setting.
true,
Just
true.
saying.
But we have had,
We've had the town
right,
manager.
we've
not
had
had the town manager has had
right,
one-on-one conversations.
correct,
The question is whether or not he wants to engage with the board in this discussion.
right.
The board can
And
push
we're
him
all
out.
about conversations, right? This is really big picture stuff that
It is.
it could be exemplary, right? We want to make sure that the optics of what we're trying to do illuminate the revenue subsidies that 75% of the town land get. And that's okay. Again, not an opponent of the current use. It's
Yes.
what are we accepting?
In terms of a narrative, comparing the nonprofits to the current use in this town is a very productive way for you to change the conversation.
Thank you.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
2 years working on this.
Now, on the opposite side of that, if we stood up at town meeting and said, we're so excited, we just signed a pilot agreement with Habitat for Humanity, and their $800,000 facility on Tenny Mountain Highway is now gonna pay us $500 a year in a pilot. That is not the answer that the citizenry, like, there's no cheering or clapping as a result from that agreement. So,
I
I
would,
appreciate your framing.
The leadership move.
I would
I
be,
appreciate your framing.
I would be the first one to say that if you look at the value of properties that Habitat has already built in this town and has deeded to the current owners, and they are paying property taxes on, like, the town is getting a significant benefit from the volunteer home building that Habitat is already doing.
But I would say that's the exact same argument that you would make for Plymouth State, right? Like, this community benefits greatly by having an international, highly diverse university.
Except
right
that
here
Plymouth State
employs
also has a
people and
burden
brings
on the
students
community. There's road maintenance. There's a lot of things. We have to have a 30-foot ladder truck that we would not have to have otherwise. Whereas I don't see a lot of burden for Habitat. They provide a lot of benefits to the community.
The only burden is that they're probably taking a property off the tax roll that would get us
Much more.
you know, what, 20?
If it
again,
were
what's the
not held
number?
by a nonprofit,
23
there would be
times
additional tax
800,
revenue
you know,
for
they're taking $18,000.
$18,000, yeah. And just
Which I
for-
wouldn't ask Habitat for Humanity to enter into a pilot for $18,000. That I would never even suggest that that's the right number. But
Well, to Phil's point, we have added over $2 million in property value in affordable homes, single-family homes.
Which this
to
community
the
needs.
To the Plymouth, to the Plymouth.
But I think that's the story you want to get out, as opposed to Habitat has a $500 pilot agreement.
I'm willing to have both those conversations. I love the talk.
I mean, the $500 pilot agreement allows you to shine a flashlight on current use, which is a question of whether or not you're interested in engaging in that particular fight or not.
Right.
Love it. Because it's not a fight. Truly it isn't.
It's the
What it is it's illuminating what we're okay with as a community, that do not press our legislators to change, and there are no scrutinies applied to the ownership of those lands, right? Like, you guys review every nickel that we spend to assure that it's in line, if you guys are doing that. I mean, we provide all the data, right? The Secretary of State, the IRS, they look at all this, right? You can see that it's full transparency. Now, there's many people, if I look through the current use list, that are XYZ holdings, right? XYZ investments, right? That are in the current use. I mean, not to call out, but I mean, there are large for-profit organizations in this town that are being subsidized to the tune of, you know, $20,000 to $40,000 with their current use. And that's okay. Again, this is the system. It's the RSA. And those RSAs also do protect us as they're written now in the nonprofits to not do anything. So that, you're right, it is optically, which is why I really made you guys ask for that number, right? But at the same time, it's meant to illuminate, right?
I would, it's funny, like, in this situation, like, if we had 5 organizations like Habitat that all owned assets, but all we're building houses that become taxable value, I would say let's take all 5 in town. Like, they're building our tax base for us. We don't have to do anything.
Right, I don't think
Yeah, I'm
anyone
not
on this
arguing.
board doesn't already know that, and appreciates that, for
My
sure.
concern is, once
Free
we
ice cream.
once we adopt a strategy that becomes the
Well,
de
but
facto
all
standard.
but all nonprofits are not created equally, which is the other piece that's weird here. Habitat for Humanity
Is different.
is very different in terms of, to your point, does Habitat for Humanity cause any actual cost? Well, no, not really. They
Comparison.
obviously are sitting on an $18,000 taxable piece of property, but other than that, they're not causing a cost. They are causing, you know, good things to happen in the community. Take not to open a particular wound, but take a Spear Medical or Mid-State, where we have to send our ambulance and our EMS regularly to deal with incidents that are happening at those hospitals, right? We're responding there. We're like, the presence of that hospital is a service to the community. But when a police officer has to sit with a psych patient in the hospital overnight for 12 hours, that's a burden on the town, right? So are they created equal? God, I don't know.
Frank, what's the total assessed value of all your properties?
Give me 1 second, because I just wanted, to that point, ask Scott a quick question. And this is about revenue stream. So when the town does send a police officer to sit with a psych, or the fire department to pick up a patient, do those entities get billed for that? They don't. That's interesting.
And we stopped doing as much of the overnight psych watches because we just couldn't do it. But there was a point on this board where it was burning out our police. We had multiple police officers resign because they couldn't sit another psych ward watch at the hospital. So we had to decide as a community, like, sorry, Spear Hospital, we're not going to do it anymore. Like, you can call us, but you got to find somebody else to sit with these. We're not going to do it. And like, what an awkward conversation that is, because obviously we want to.
And we need affordable housing for those police officers to encourage them to stay here. But, so Scott, to answer your question, between the two buildings, right now, it's the only tax exempt property that we have, is the Restore. That's the only non-taxable property that we own. What's that?
Not over at the
No,
old.
we pay taxes on that right now.
On which one?
On the bank, 3 Highland
On
Street.
former Northway.
Yeah, because we haven't determined what we're gonna do with it.
Okay.
So there's no sense in pulling it out of taxes at this moment, because we don't know what we're gonna do with it.
So the assessed value on Restore?
850 or 800, what, you looked it up, what was it, 880?
I
It's
just
somewhere in
took- I
there.
took
It's
your
on the
word for it
tax
at
maps.
800.
But I think it's like 850 or 880.
You guys
And then the additional 60 acres that we have out back is in current use. It's not actively being used in support of our mission, although, I mean, we've had informal conversations about that, including donating some of the land for the safety building, or again, having really big conversations that can help to guide the town very thoughtfully. A lot of work. I did a lot of thinking, a lot of long drives thinking about this, you know?
It's good framing.
Frank,
Thank you again.
can I ask a question?
Oh, we got a question from the audience.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Have you done the math?
I need you to come to the microphone, though.
I really don't know the answer, so this is.
Susan Matheson,
dangerous.
former Olympic rower.
Current, no. Have you done the math that if other nonprofits followed the same formula, the hospital, the university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how that would pencil out?
So I have, but there's always the caveat of what are we looking at,
Right.
right?
Right.
Are we looking at the tax exempt properties as a whole, which the majority is state and town owned? And then if you remove medical, right, from that, and we're talking about Visiting Nurses Association, Lakes Region Mental Health, Spear, Midstate, right, all of their buildings. And then you remove the churches, we get down to about $8 million in taxable property that the that the nonprofits actually own. They may operate out of other buildings that they're paying leases on, which get full taxes.
When the community's upset about nonprofits, Plymouth State and the hospitals are definitely included in that.
I would love to hear that be the actual like problem, right? Versus
The small,
the
smaller.
the nonprofits that are the tax owners, right? That we own property
Well,
and its impact.
You shined a bit of a light on yourself buying the Northway building, which is
It was donated. Yeah.
acquiring and however it was
Yeah,
acquired.
for sure.
The Northway. But
And we're-
that's why you're probably getting more heat now than maybe you got in the past.
Haven't got any heat, which is amazing. There is a bit of scrutiny, like one or two.
Probably not in the
squeals.
angry face taxpayers of Plymouth group on Facebook.
I am.
Oh, okay.
It's called the Concerned Taxpayers of Plymouth.
That's what it is.
And yes, I am avidly watching that. But we pay taxes on that building.
Right.
So, and we're proud stewards of that building and having a much larger community conversation about the use of that building. The last thing the town.
And we appreciate the conversation you've been having with us
Yeah.
about the parking lot and resolving some of those historical problems.
That's a huge, no, I think as a community partner, I mean, your willingness to negotiate with the town to help resolve the boundary line issues with the library is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're here for.
I know.
We've demonstrated that since 1985, that we're committed to the community. And my stewardship as the executive director is to maintain that, which is why I wasn't here last year proposing this, right? We still needed to like really work out shining the light on it, what's important to the town, what's important to, as Frank Miller would say, I believe it's we, us, and ours, right? And what can we do? This is our town, and what can we do to help that, right?
Yeah, I'm all for trying to set a standard. We had a meeting recently with another nonprofit and applied a standard using, Article 38 as a guideline for that. And so I think we should look at doing something similar.
I think that there's huge distance between Article 38, which is what the community is asking for,
Yes.
and matching this. And I'm not sure we do the community any favors by entering into an agreement this low. Would be my
Right. If we applied the same, I'm gonna say logic, no offense, to PSU, would we actually get a reduction in their pilot? I don't know, I'm asking.
I just did rough math.
Okay.
It's on like a $160 million valuation for PSU, which is probably way low, and it would come out to like $825,000.
So it's actually not that.
Interesting.
Instead of the.
Which is 3 times.
Right.
I think that's because I think Merrill Place itself is like a $50,000 tax assessment right now, I think, or something.
I'm going to repeat Nick Mason from the crowd, who did a quick back of napkin math and said if this standard was applied to the university, it would be about $825,000. So
For a pilot agreement.
For a pilot agreement, so maybe not actually as far off as my initial gut reaction was.
Thank you.
So one of the questions was, I forget where it came from, but it was, what is the impact? Right, I kind of got off on a tangent when I started to say, like, if you remove the churches and it leaves $8 million and really assess value, that included our valuation on the bank. So it's actually about $6.8 million, right? And if you were to look at the revenue right now that you're getting from those parcels, which is zero, it would bump it up. And this is, again, this is the caveat of a number, right? People get hung up on the number. It would be $4,500 roughly.
And you have a nonprofit in front of you who's offering a pilot. I'm confused on what we're hung up on here, I guess.
Well, are we talking 500 or 4,500? Is that, I'm sorry.
The $4,500 would be if this was applied across the board and all of the smaller nonprofits accepted this and said, hey,
You're not setting a precedent.
boy, that Frank is a real trendsetter.
Right.
And I want to get down there and I want to tell them, man, I want to jump on that train with Frank and get my pilot signed so that Scott can then stand up and say to the town, guys, 100% of the nonprofits in this town are entered into a pilot agreement.
What do you think the next question is?
How much?
Yeah, I'm with you. Well,
It's not gonna sit
and that's
well.
where Scott can say, in line with the current use that's subsidized, they're actually
And
paying
they're
more.
gonna say how much?
That's fair.
But that, I mean, the thing is, the current use does not, in no condition does current use rate apply to buildings. It's only on undeveloped land. And a lot of the value, so I mean, from a comparison's sake.
Sure.
Yeah.
By the way,
I understand where you're coming
I'm just
from.
going to interrupt again. Nick, my back of napkin says 87,000, not.
Yeah,
I
I was doing the same thing. I was like, this isn't.
Off by 10?
Divide by 0.025 to get what it's your 140. I went with 140th instead of 140.
We're willing to do that if you'll sign.
I think it would be 0025.
Yeah,
I think you're off by 10. I think it would be 0023.
I did 160 million divided by 40 times 23 divided by 1,000.
And I did
Times
200
100,000.
million. I just
Which
rounded
gets
up.
92,000 if that's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, Nick.
Anyway,
I think you're right, Nick.
I didn't want to get too excited about the math somehow working out at that scale if it doesn't.
Right, but if we're gonna use this as a trend.
No pilot is going to be precedent setting. I think every pilot is individual, and I think if they're willing to make an offer of a pilot, we should consider it.
I would, and again, I'd like to just, one of the things that Phil just said was that it's the optics of comparing it to the current use. And I think that's important because there is, I mean, I can cite parcel after parcel that's been in current use paying $20 a year since the 80s that have never had anything done on them, which is that the actual current use intent, or was it for small farmers to be able to use the land and shepherd it and keep it affordable? Right?
Current use
That's a conversation.
specifically says farm and forestry.
Sure.
So if you have undeveloped land that's in trees, you are supposed to specify like your percentage cover of hardwood, of pine, like it is supposed to include an assessment of the value of timber on that land as well.
It is. And it was wonderful because I actually have this, a layperson's guide to New Hampshire current use. It's
From
available to
space.
anybody for only $2 from Habitat, or you can get it online for free. But
Printing
what I'm
costs.
saying here is that I could cite multiple parcels, including people who spoke here tonight, that are subsidized heavily, and their subsidies on their current use are more than the taxes on the median home here in town.
Well, you'll note I asked that exact question when the gentleman suggested he would put that piece of land back on the tax roll. Because that's not meaningful at a current use.
It's
Like,
not.
that's a very nice thing to say, but it is not a meaningful thing in terms of tax impact.
It's $200.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If we want to put a number to it for the conversation.
$200.
So,
Just
yeah, let's say
interrupting you for a
germane.
moment and speaking to a sidebar, you said that this isn't precedent setting and that no pilot would set a precedent. That is theoretically true. But Mr. McLean, if we sign this and agree to this, he's going to go to every other nonprofit in town and say, you should set up a pilot with the town at this rate, because then we can say that 100% of the nonprofits in town are paying pilots for the optics.
At a reduced
May I make a comment on that?
rate.
To put that into perspective, 100% of the people that I contacted about this prior declined to even do the 140.
Well, they don't even want to start the conversation.
I
because
agree.
they don't-
I agree. But
But if all of a sudden,
100%.
if you had an agreement with us, they would probably change their tune.
Your Honor, I say
But I don't know.
speculation.
I'm obviously, I'm presupposing. But Maggie, I would always appreciate your input on any topic, especially as relates to nonprofits and land use.
Is this the neighbor favor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, why not?
And Maggie Mumford again, speaking as a private citizen only. And just curious as to, could an arrangement be set up that's based purely for this nonprofit, based on the amount of increase in the taxable land that they have generated? Period. Not using the current use model, which as a private citizen makes me a little uncomfortable because I have my own private use and wait a minute. But to not be a pilot that is precedent setting because there is no other nonprofit that has increased the tax base, correct?
Not in the way that Habitat has.
Not so directly. So I'm saying if there's a direct formula that is used, could that be an
We don't
solution?
have any pilot that has a formula, right? There's no.
The
Do
most
we?
recent one we just entered into, we agreed to some baloney
And the
formula.
the life safety services agreement is based on a
based on a
calculation of value provided and, I mean,
But
but
it's
each
still,
one is
We
different
try to
based
come up
on
with
the,
some
that.
sort of justification
entity.
for the amount.
What pilot are you
Correct.
referring to that we just entered into?
I said,
I
Bridge House.
Okay. Yeah, and we used it, like, I think, what did we say, 0.5% or something? Of the assessed value?
I think it was somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there,
Yeah.
which is
Although
roughly double.
I don't think we should discuss that, right? We discussed that in non-public and it's not finalized
We
yet.
discussed
should
it in
not be discussing
non-public
that.
and we didn't seal those minutes.
So theoretically, within 72 hours. it's-
72 hours. It's been 72 hours.
Okay. Right. But still, like, that agreement has not been fully executed, has it?
So Frank didn't put anything in writing to the board, and in order to keep this meeting moving, because you have a very lengthy non-public coming up, could I ask that maybe he provide
Proposal together
a
and.
proposal?
Frank, work with the town, sentiment of the board, work with the town manager to
Thank
put
you.
forward a proposal that then we can put in front of us to either sign or not sign. But
Yeah.
conceptually, we love Habitat for Humanity and we appreciate the perspective you have on this topic.
Oh, you guys are playing hardball. Listen, we'll go 39. We'll go 39 hundredths or 39. You know what I'm saying. We're committed.
$1 per thousand.
It's, yeah, no.
Put it.
But,
Oh, there's our offer.
right. So,
in
we
writing.
appreciate your time. You guys do a lot of work here.
Thank you.
The big takeaway here, please, is that when things are happening in town, if we have a capability to complement the process, my office is at the Restore. Call first, because I'm not always there. I may be building one of the 7 houses, right? So, we're doors always open for big thinking, like donating land.
Do you have actively have 7 houses under construction?
No,
at the
not right now.
moment?
I'm one of the 7 that we built.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that seems very aggressive, but
Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
looking forward to it.
Got to get into the planning board. So, all right,
All right.
Scott, you and me, buddy.
Probably not for long, Frank.
Oh.
I heard. Thank you, guys.
Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you,
Frank.
Sue.
So we'll look at putting that back on the agenda in a few weeks?
Yep.
All right.
And then the last of our new and old business is a discussion regarding a letter to extend municipal net metering and support for SB 538, ensuring long-term value for municipal renewable energy project, presented by Ashley Saba, who is not here.
I think we had a comment earlier on Zoom too.
You don't?
Is there,
I can provide this to Maggie, and maybe she can help us.
Was Ashley gonna present, Ian?
She was, yeah.
I think between Maggie and myself, I would be happy to help contribute as well.
I tried to catch up on the last meeting pertinent to this through clean energy, but
Uh,
Microphone, chair.
Or the chair.
Yeah,
Or the
sit-
chair.
sure.
Or you could sit at the table, yeah.
Do you want me to start with a high-level overview? So my understanding of Senate Bill 538 is that it would basically fix a 20-year term on eligibility of net metering, so that otherwise, so we all think of net metering as being indefinitely offered in the future, and it's not. Even the original net metering is scheduled to run out maybe in 10 or 12 years at this point. So, but for municipalities that are considering building renewable generation, having the kind of guarantee of being able to net meter excess power is a big part of the math and being able to put renewable energy into the grid. And there aren't many. I mean, there are some for-profit businesses that will invest in renewable generation. I do think it benefits the grid. I think it benefits all of us.
the equipment, and yes, I just scanned this, but I know enough about net metering and solar to say that the equipment is designed to last a lot longer, or 25 years, it's usually guaranteed, base guarantee on the panels and the arrays. And the financing is often for 25 years if it's by an outside investor through a power purchase agreement. So the sooner, if net metering runs out, then there will be less investment, because currently it's all designed to be a longer time frame. Is that an accurate, relatively accurate way to summarize it?
I think basically the current legislation does not guarantee net metering it for
Yeah.
that distance into the future. And this would at least guarantee net metered benefits 20 years into the future.
And if you,
So
if we
the
don't have
Senate-
net metering,
the Senate bill
then
would.
that pulls the rug out from under investment in solar.
So the Senate bill just extends the net metering period, or?
Specifically
Looks like-
for communities.
Yeah, and it looks like it's guaranteed.
Through 24.
So-
Under current rules, net
20
metering is
years.
only guaranteed through 2040. So I'd taken a shot and said 10 to 15 years, but it's,
Yeah,
the next, it's only guaranteed for
15,
14 more
right.
years.
Whereas the legislation would guarantee it for 20 years after the project starts, which makes it feasible to invest in such a project.
So what you're looking for is a support letter.
A letter of support
Yes.
to the Senate supporting legislation.
It looks like there is a letter already here that we're just agreeing to sign on to as a municipality.
Yes. I believe that's what's been proposed. This, the cut sheet here is these talking points, I believe, are from Clean Energy New Hampshire, who is supporting this and providing information to municipalities who choose to sign on in support of this Senate Bill 538.
So it feels to me like,
Motion.
like a motion to have either me or Scott sign it.
I'll make a motion to have, I don't care which, Zach or Scott sign the letter to extend municipal net metering and support Senate Bill 538.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
My only thought is it would be great if we could all sign it. It would have
I don't
more
know if
weight
it
with the
has
Senate, I believe.
spots.
If what's that?
We all sign it?
I think we
Oh, it looked
we
like
just
this letter
authorized-
was coming
We just
from-
authorized Scott to sign it, but I think it would have more weight if we could all sign it.
I assumed this was gonna be one letter coming from multiple municipalities.
It is, but I think if we had the town manager and 5 select board members sign it, I think it would have more weight with the Senate.
I just think there's some terminology in the letter that needs to be corrected because it's not on behalf of the communities, it's behalf on this community.
Okay.
Oh, if we were just gonna
there's some
send
other
our own
language in
version of
there
this?
that needs to be
That's fine.
updated.
I think we can, I mean, if the letter's coming from you, I think I would support your tune-up of the letter to be specific to this community.
Yeah, my question is, when is this hearing? As often or?
No, there's actually some time.
Is there time?
But I think if we can get it out in the next week, it would be fine. Yeah, no, the guidance, I actually have the guidance on it somewhere.
It's just gonna be challenging for us to get all 5 of our signatures on it.
So
Well,
if,
let's
we'll have
authorize
it
Scott.
ready by Thursday morning, if you guys can stop
I
in.
can-
I can come by.
Maggie, do you know if Ashley has this in
All
a
right,
Word
fresh motion.
document?
Thursday morning.
I'm sure she has it in digital format.
Wanna make
Yes.
A motion for.
Can you do
for
that?
all of us?
I'll
And I
amend my
will-
motion.
I'll email her when I get home.
It's too
and
late. It's
call
already
her
been
tomorrow
approved. You need a new one.
morning and
Okay,
follow
I'll
up
make
and
a
make
new
sure-
I'll go through
motion
and make the edits to it,
to
if I get the Word document for it.
Okay.
To allow Scott to
Thanks.
tune up the letter.
allow Scott and Ann to tune up the letter and allow all of the select board to sign.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll
Let's
get you
do
the
it.
deadline, Scott.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Scott, we said we would have this
Ashley
letter
owes you
ready
one.
for them to sign by Thursday morning.
What's that?
We said we'd have that letter ready for them.
As
to-
long as I get the Word document from Maggie and we can update it?
We already have it, I think.
You have the Word document?
Yeah, I think that's what this is.
Oh, okay.
So.
You printed it?
Printed that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any critical committee updates?
No.
No critical ones.
We're skipping committee updates. Public comments.
No public comments.
Any online? Looks like we still have
We do have people online.
2 people left online.
Is there something in the chat?
There was something in the chat earlier.
Oh, I think that was
Yeah,
from a
but I
while
think
ago.
it was a
Yes, it was a while ago.
agreement-y kind of thing. I don't know though.
Chat.
It's on the bottom.
None.
All right. Assuming there's nothing. Chat.
Melinda keeps going in and out.
Oh, William Bond had some comments about the discussion around tax burden for current use. Which is, I will just quote him, "Current use with no activity is not a tax burden on the town. Having people who don't live in town using our roads, et cetera, actually adds expenses to our town," which, okay.
make a
That's
mo-
it for public comment. We don't see any.
All right, I'll make a motion to go into non-public in accordance to RSA 91-A:3, number 2, A, personnel.
While we're making that transition, I'm
Second.
going to.
Hurry up.
I'll be quick.
Do I have to do a roll call vote?
Vote, yeah, you usually
Yeah.
do a roll call vote.
Phil,
Phil?
your vote.
Motion,
Yes, non-public.
Jason,
aye.
Zach, aye. Ted,
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
All right, non-public it is.